And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jacobson versus Cole. Step forward, please.
Aaron Jacobson is suing his sister, flight attendant Kelly Cole, for an unpaid loan to pay her bills. Kelly says she assumed the money was a gift.
Mr. Jacobson, you claim a loan to the defendant, who's your sister,
Yes.
amount of $3,000. Your sister acknowledges that you gave her $3,000, but your sister says it wasn't a loan, it was a gift. When did you make this loan?
In April.
Tell me about it.
My partner had passed away in March, and I hadn't really seen my sister since 2000. And when he passed away, she showed up at the wake. Then after that, there has been a couple of times that I had talked to her sporadically on the phone, and she had told me that, you know, her roommate had gave her some bad checks and that she was in need of some cash. So I asked her how much would be the minimum that she would need to pay her car payments, the child care for her daughter, and her utility bills. And she said $3,000. So I told her that I could probably swing that.
And when you handed her the money, what kind of conversation did you have?
Well, I told her that I could loan her the money and I needed it to be repaid, but I told her I would loan it to her at a 0% interest, you know, because she was in need.
Why didn't you speak to your sister for the 2-year period between 2000 and 2000?
My sister and my brother were in business together, and he had gotten hurt. So then when he was in the hospital, my sister sort of just swung in, and she wanted to take over the business. And in that time, they were behind on all their bills, so then my mom got involved into it. Then she started running the business with my brother, and then my sister was out of it. So there was a big family dispute over the whole entire mess.
Okay. Did you ask your sister back for this money?
Yes.
When?
Every month.
What did she say?
She would show me a stack of bills and she says, I don't have any to give to you. And in August, she just blew up and was like yelling and using foul language. And then she told me that I should have told you months ago that I was not ever going to pay you.
All right, Miss Cole, let's hear your version of these events.
Where would you like me to start?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, I would like you to start on the 29th of April when your brother handed you $3,000.
April.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Let's start at April. Okay. He gave me the $3,000. I had driven out there. I had not spoken to either one of them for over a year, not because my brother was hurt. My other brother, who I was in business with, who my mother talked me into going into business with this brother.
How old are you?
Old enough to know better.
So don't blame anybody else for your mistakes. I want to hear about the $3,000.
Okay, the $3,000.
So your brother gave you $3,000 because you said you were behind on your bills. Why didn't you pay him back?
Because I assumed that it was a gift, because I didn't find out until 2 weeks later from my Aunt Carol, who had gone to a picnic with them. She came back to me, she goes, Kelly, do you know that gift that your brother gave you was a loan?
Listen to me, I'm not interested in what somebody said to you outside of this courtroom.
Yes.
I want to know why, in your mind, you think that this brother, who you weren't in business with, would give you $3,000.
Because he and my mother went into the company after my brother was stabbed and took the company, went into bank accounts, took money, back charged my account, which put me $27,000 in debt, and turned around and deposited into their new DBA account. They took over the business. Both of them.
Miss Cole, I think that you have a persecution complex. So far, you have two brothers and a mother. You're not talking to your mother, this brother, or your other brother, because everybody is trying to scam you. Is
Not
that right?
everybody's trying. They've always done it.
Is there any particular reason for that?
Because I was very close to my grandmother.
Oh, you are a very sick girl. You owe your brother $3,000. Pay it. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
This is case number 314 on the calendar in the matter of Sands versus Azarovich. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Mr. Sands, the defendant is the girlfriend of your former landlord.
Correct.
And it is your claim that during an argument that took place really between your landlord and you, that the defendant assaulted you, caused you substantial injury, caused you to be seen by a doctor, caused you substantial pain and suffering, and you want to be compensated for that.
Correct.
Ms. Esarovich, is your boyfriend here today?
Yes.
Is that this gentleman right here?
Yes.
Okay. You had been a tenant of his for some time. There had been some problems. You wanted the place painted because you said there was paint chipping. He wasn't responsive to your request. You called the housing department. He was forced to paint. You say in retaliation to that, they moved to have you evicted. You ultimately won a settlement from them. So far, is that generally what happened?
Yes.
Now, the garage space had become an issue. Is that right, Mr. Sands?
Yes.
This is when this altercation took place. Now, Mr. Sands, why don't you tell me the date that this incident took place?
It was on September 7th of 2001.
And tell me what happened.
Miss Esarovich and Mr. Evanson approached the gate of the yard leading into my house. I was outside and I asked them if there was something I could do to help them, and they didn't answer, but they proceeded to go into the garage, which was part of the property that I had been renting for in excess of 4 years.
Well, do you have a lease?
I do.
And does the lease include the garage?
It wasn't specified.
If it's not specified, it doesn't include the garage.
However, I had been in full use of the garage for the entire term of my tenancy without sharing it with any other tenants.
Listen, if you have a lease that says that you are renting a house and there is another property on that land, some other edifice, and if it's not specified that you have use of that, that your rent also includes that, you're not entitled to it. In any event, they came on the property that you were renting in order to deal with this garage issue. Let's proceed from there.
Okay, well, they proceeded to walk into the garage. I didn't know what they were doing because they hadn't responded to me when they came into the yard. So I followed them into the garage and I asked them what they were doing. And they told me that they were looking at their garage. And I said that you need to have given me 24 hours of written notice to, examine the property.
It's not your property. Garage is not your property. They didn't go into your house, did they?
Well, they went into something that I viewed as being included in the
That's
in the
your
property.
view. That's your view. That's not their view. That's not my view. They don't have to give you written notice of going and looking at their property. What if there was a
Okay.
guest house on your property? A guest house on the property?
According to the officials that I spoke to
I'm
at
telling
the
you,
rent
I don't
control-
believe that. So
Okay.
let's move on.
Sure.
They went to look at their property.
Okay. And I told them that I would have to call the police, which I then did. I went back into the house, and at that point I asked Emily, who's a friend of mine who had showed up to go to this yoga class with me, to bring me out my regular phone. At that point, I dialed 911 on the regular phone. The police came eventually onto the phone. At that point, the landlord and this woman came out of the garage. She saw Emily standing near the house and started screaming at her.
What was she saying?
She said, "Who is this woman? She is not allowed to be on the property. She is not on your lease. Where are your wife and children? And you are a liar," and etc., etc. At that point, I walked up and stood between the two of them and said, "She is allowed to be on the property. She's my guest, and you can't come and scream at a guest of mine.
Absolutely right.
You need to leave. This is inappropriate." At that point, I felt my arms pulled behind me like this. And I realized that it was the landlord, Mr. Evanson, who had grabbed me from behind. He then pulled my shirt up around my neck and through my mouth and started strangling me. At that point, I became relatively concerned and I started screaming for help. I continued to scream for help until I couldn't speak anymore. He choked me so forcefully.
Could we move this on a little faster, please?
Sure.
Good.
After that, Mila walked up, and I assumed that she was going to tell him to let me go. But she didn't. She stood at a 45-degree angle to me, and she kicked my right knee in.
That's what we're talking about.
That's what this suit is based on.
Okay. Now, I want you to tell me your version of the events, and please try to do it a little faster.
Okay, this is on the date of September 7, at 6 o'clock approximately. Okay, well, before
Just, you get there.
Okay.
You go into the garage.
right.
Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Sands, he closed the door behind us and turned the lights off and left us in the dark.
Go ahead.
His dog was viciously barking at us.
Where was the dog?
The dog was by his side.
Was the dog on a leash?
No.
Go ahead.
Then he approached me and started threatening me
What did he say?
Well, he approached me as close like that, you know, to my face, and started threatening me and screaming.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I never kneed him in the groin.
Just a minute. What do you mean you may have injured him?
I was trying to escape by elbowing him.
You're under oath.
That's a crocker who shot John.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Charles Sands says his former landlord's girlfriend, Mila Azarovich, assaulted him by kicking him in the knee. Mila says Charles kicked her fiancé in the groin.
Go ahead.
Then Lars was concerned about my safety. He circled his arms around Charles Sands.
From the back.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And he's very experienced in this kind of situation, how to handle it in non-violent manner.
He circled him. He immobilized him.
Right.
Go ahead.
At that moment, Charles Sands kicked him in the groin area very hard. The next moment, Charles Sands took a bat in his hand and hit Lars in his face, then in his ribs, and Lars fell on the concrete floor. Rick Sanchez came out. He tried to pull them.
Who was Mr. Sanchez? Is he a neighbor?
Yes.
Would you step up, sir?
Sure.
You're Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
How long have you been a tenant?
10 years.
Did you witness any of this altercation?
I did.
Would you tell me what you saw, sir?
On that evening, approximately the same time that both of them mentioned, I had been traveling. I came home, I was laying on my couch, and I heard some screams for help, 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 help.
Male voice, female voice?
It was a male voice. It was a male voice. And knowing that Chuck lives in the back, I didn't know if a vehicle had fallen on him or whatever the case was. And I went to the back bedroom, looked out the window. And when I looked out the window, I saw Mr. Evanson had Mr. Sands around the neck from behind with his shirt around his neck and was holding him, not allowing him to move. I decided to go outside. I went out and I told Mr. Evanson, you don't want to do this, let go of Chuck, let's stop this, at which time he did. Mila was out there also at the time, and of course there was some screaming and yelling and what have you. And he let go of Chuck, and I think I mentioned to Chuck's girlfriend to call the police. I don't know if she already had or not, but I said, call the police. And I went back in the house, and when I went back in the house, I heard some more commotion, so I came back out. Mr. Evanson and Mr. Sands were at separate ends of the yard, and at which time I said, this needs to stop. And I think Mila at that point had forced Lars out the back gate, and they exited the property.
Did you see either of these two gentlemen injured in any way?
No, I did not.
Didn't see him injured?
I didn't see him injured.
And you didn't see him injured?
I did not.
Did you hear either one of them complain about being injured?
No, I did not.
Didn't limp? You didn't see him limp?
I didn't notice.
He didn't say anything to you. I'm injured.
He
Call
did
an
not say-
ambulance.
he did not say anything to me.
Call an ambulance. I need medical attention.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Oh. What kind of property is this, Mr. Sanchez?
It's a rental property that has a rental above. I live on the bottom floor, and then in the back there is another residence there, which is where Mr. Sands lives.
And what about this garage? Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, it's a removed area. You have the back part of the house, and then probably 5 to 8 feet there's a garage there.
Who uses that garage?
I really never knew. I don't know.
You don't use it?
I do not use it, no.
Do you have a lease?
I do.
Does your lease provide for use of any garage space?
No, it does not.
Did you ever have occasion to call the Board of Health or anyone else with regard to the property and its being in unsafe condition?
I never made a call like that, no.
Thank you. Have a seat. Okay, so you got kicked in the knee, Mr. Sands. Let's hear the rest.
So she kicked me in the knee.
That's what you told me. And this was on the 7th of September?
Yes.
Can I see the medical reports, please? By the way, tell me about the settlement that you won when you sued them. How many times have you sued them?
No, I didn't actually sue them. What happened was I had complained about lead-based paint that was flaking off of the house, and had been doing that for basically the entire term of my tenancy. I have 2 small children, and I was very concerned about this. I told them that I was going to have to complain to the city. They said, do whatever you want, and I did that. The city came out, issued them an order to comply, and within a week they filed to evict me.
Repainted. Oh, they filed to evict you.
Right. The only grounds that they could use if I hadn't done anything wrong, they said that they were going to move into my house.
Okay.
So within a week of them receiving this order to comply, they had filed to evict me.
Go ahead.
We were involved in this eviction process wherein they tried to say that my children didn't live with me, et cetera, et cetera.
Do they live with you?
Yes, they do. They were attempting to do that so that they wouldn't have to pay me the full relocation fee, which is required by the Rent Control Board. After several court appearances, they settled for a relocation sum that was considerably larger than they would have had to pay in the first place.
Which is what?
$5,000 is the amount that a family is entitled to for relocation.
Is that what you got?
No, actually I got in the neighborhood of $8,000.
That sounds pretty good.
Well, considering
Let me ask
that
you this question. Diagnostic impression here is that you have, other than one knee contusion, and you went to the doctor, I see, a day later, not that day. So you weren't feeling too badly that day. You went a day later. You have mild something right, something strain, right shoulder abrasion, mild soft tissue trauma to the neck. Okay? So you take a little aspirin. Since none of the last three of these injuries is attributed to the defendant, but attributed to the landlord, I'm curious as to why you chose to sue her instead of him.
Well, as I was being assaulted, let me continue.
No, just answer my question. You answer my question.
Okay, there's two reasons. First of all, I don't believe that Mr. Evanson is fully responsible for his actions. He has had some brain injury in the past, and I think he may be being manipulated by this woman. Secondly, as I was trying to escape, in my struggle, I may have injured him. However, I never kneed him in the groin.
Just a minute. What do you mean you may have injured him? How may you have injured him, sir?
As he was choking me from behind. He's considerably taller than I am.
I see that.
I was trying to escape by elbowing him. So I may have injured him.
So it's a fair statement, so that the reason you didn't sue him and chose to sue her, you felt that he may have a defense of self-defense, and she had none.
No, not precisely.
Yeah. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
My name is Emily Gray.
Where do you live, Miss Gray?
I live in Newport Beach.
Okay. Tell me what your relationship is with Mr. Sands.
I'm a good friend of Mr. Sands.
Do you know his wife?
Yes, I do.
What's her name?
Anne.
Where does Anne live?
She lives in San Pedro as well. I don't know the exact location.
But she doesn't live with Mr. Sands.
Not presently.
That is correct. She does not live with Mr. Sands.
She does not live with him now.
And she was not living with him in September of 2001.
She might have just moved out.
Right. Now, how old are Mr. Sands' two children?
His son is about 14 and his daughter is about 7.
And who do those children live with?
They live with him.
They live with him. And they were living with him in September of 2001 after his wife moved out?
Yes.
Does he have permanent custody of those children?
I don't know exactly the details. They spend weekends with their mothers. Otherwise, they're mainly at his house.
Where do they go to school from?
What do you mean from?
Where do they go to school from? From your house?
Yeah.
Both of them?
Right.
Okay. Do you have joint custody of the children?
My son and my daughter are from 2 different marriages.
Do you have joint custody of your children, sir?
I have primary custody of my son, and there is no actual paperwork because we're only separated. My daughter's mom and I are only separated.
They still get along. I mean, you and your ex-wife still get along.
My daughter's mom and I get along pretty well. And
I'm not interested in that, whether you still get along pretty well or not. I'm just interested in why somebody gave you $8,000 to move.
Because it was established that the kids live with me.
You're on the rules.
Now, was he treated for any injuries that he sustained that day?
Yes.
You have the medical report on that?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
He saw that his tooth was knocked out. So I just...
Right, and his diagnosis is groin contusion, facial contusion, and prescription is ice and Motrin in the evening for pain. So you were right, Mr. Sands. You did injure him. Did he sue you?
No,
Why do you think that is, sir?
because any injuries that he sustained were due to self-defense on my part. He attacked me from behind, and he...
Think you both behaved badly that day?
No, I don't. I don't believe I behaved badly. I tried to escape.
You tried to escape, sir.
Yeah.
You had already gotten outside of the garage. You went inside to get a telephone.
None,
You went inside. Pay careful attention to me, sir.
Okay.
You went inside to get a telephone before anything happened to call 911. And you said you walked outside. Now, if you wanted to diffuse a situation before anything happened, you stay inside, you call 911.
Actually, I was concerned that they might do something strange in my garage. We were at that point embroiled in a bitter eviction matter. I didn't know what they were capable of.
Well, Mr. Sands, I know this, sir. I know
So I was keeping an eye on
They paid you $8,000 in order to get you and your children, who were there sometimes and not there other times, to move. And I know that this gentleman, who you described as someone who may not be functioning optimally because of some injury, was more injured than you were that day. That I know for sure from reading the medical records. And you said that the reason you didn't sue him is because you felt sorry, because you didn't think that perhaps he understood everything that was going on. And I think that that's a crock of who shot John. I think that the reason you didn't sue him is because his injuries were more severe than yours. And if he got kicked in the shins by his girlfriend, so be it. You got $8,000 from them. You're not getting another penny, Mr. Sands. Goodbye.
This is case number 192 on the calendar in the matter of White versus Vargas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Mr. White, according to your complaint, sir, the defendant is a neighbor of yours.
Yes.
And he shot your dog.
Yes, he did.
Shh. The dog survived.
Yes.
And still have the dog, but you had a lot of vet bills.
Right.
And you wanted him also to pay for the psychological damage that was caused to you and your family as a result of this shooting.
Yes.
Where was your dog when he shot the dog?
My dog was in his front yard when he was shot.
And where were you?
I was out of town. I was on vacation.
And who was with the dog at the time that he shot the dog that was in his front yard?
No, when the dog had gotten out of the backyard to the fence.
And what kind of little dog was this?
He's not a little dog. He's a Rottweiler.
A Rottweiler.
Yes.
And the Rottweiler, I mean, I know a little bit about dogs. A Rottweiler weighs several hundred pounds,
Yes.
right?
Right, 100, yes.
Well, what was your dog doing in his front yard?
I'm not sure what he was doing, but he was just cutting through, I believe, heading back down the street like he does occasionally.
That's outrageous, sir. What is your 100-and-some-odd-pound dog doing out unattended by a member of your family who's able to control the dog? What if somebody's afraid of dogs?
Well, the dog, it's kind of hard and difficult to keep the dog in the yard sometimes, but when the dog does get out there.
Never! It's never too hard to keep a big dog in your own property. In the house, in the yard, fenced in, tied up, or at all times under your control. I read this and it sounded to me as if you're the victim. You're not the victim. Your dog is the victim of your negligence. Is this your wife?
No, it's my neighbor.
Who else lives in your home?
No one.
Just you.
Yes.
When you went out that day, where did you leave your dog?
In the house.
Well, then how'd the dog get out of the house?
Well, I had a carpenter there working on the house who had gone out to get some wood. The dog had come outside to go to the bathroom. He'd carried the wood back into the house and then heard the shots.
This is what your carpenter is telling you.
Yes, this is what I
But
was
your
told.
dog's gotten out before.
Yes, he has.
Right. Well, that's what I gather. And you're here as a neighbor to tell me it's a sweet, loving, friendly dog that you're not afraid of. Is that right?
Correct.
I don't care. Some little 5-year-old might be afraid of a 150-pound Rottweiler that comes walking up to them, even if it's the friendliest dog in town. So, that being the case, let me get to Mr. Vargas over here. Mr. Vargas, I gather that initially you denied that you shot the dog, but then you said to him, yeah, I shot your dog. Your dog was in my front yard, and my child was out there. Was your child outside?
Yes, she was.
How old is your child?
She's 13.
This your child?
Yes.
You have a picture of the dog?
Yes, I do.
Sure, let me see it. Looks like an absolutely lovely, lovely dog. For you to keep in your house, under your control, not to think it's just such a wonderful dog, everybody's going to love it.
Well, I don't feel it that way. I know the dog looks like it could be, very dangerous, but he's not by any means. As a matter of fact, my neighbors all know the dog very well because, like I said, the dog's kind of he's been raised around humans. He's never been with other dogs. He thinks he's human himself. Everybody who comes over, he meets him at the front door to be petted. He's a loving dog. All the neighbors love him, of course. Like I said, he's never had any incident before where he's caused any damage to anyone or even threatened anyone.
Listen, Mr. White, this dog is doing what this dog has been trained to do, which is he's a block dog. He feels as if he has sort of control to go outside if he wants to. People adore him. They may give him a treat. Your neighbor adores him, which is all very nice. But this is a very large animal. This isn't a Chihuahua that can't cause substantial damage. If somebody is walking in a baby carriage and for some reason this dog gets spooked by something, and even if the dog doesn't go over and try to hurt them, they can start running, the baby carriage can tip over, the baby can become injured through no fault of the dog's. Through your fault.
Well,
that's your fault.
But isn't that the reason to have dog pounds and a dog catcher in case your dog does get out, or a dog registry for lost dogs?
What if you think that this dog, because you don't know the dog, all you see is this huge dog on your lawn.
Well, wait a second.
Your daughter is screaming outside. Is that what was happening? Step up. Now you tell me. What happened when you saw the dog?
When I saw the dog, it was barking at me and showing its teeth, like in an angry way.
Were you frightened?
Yes.
Where were you standing?
In my driveway.
And where was the dog?
At the end of the driveway.
And what happened next?
I called my dad's name and he had gone and get his gun and he took care of it.
And he shot the dog? Didn't kill it? No.
Right.
That's what pounds are for.
Well, like I said.
Go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Say I was inside the house. I was looking out our bay window and looked across the street. They were outside.
Who's they?
Caesar, the kids, the whole
Kids?
family. Right.
Yes?
Didn't see the dog. All I seen was him standing at his garage. Two sounds that sounded like a shotgun, but it was getting close to 4th of July, so I thought maybe it was firecrackers. Ran back to the back door and opened up the garage door, and that's when I seen the puffs of smoke coming from his garage. But like I said, I did not know at that point in time the dog had been shot.
Just a minute. So you saw his daughter outside?
Yes, but the dog wasn't barking and they weren't screaming.
Listen, how long have you been neighbors?
3 years.
Have you ever seen the dog out before?
Yes.
Did you ever shoot the dog before?
No.
Did you ever say anything to him about the dog before?
No.
But the dog has been out before.
Right.
And it's true, over the last 3 years, you've not had a problem with him. Is that right?
No, I haven't had a problem at all with him, except for the fact that a couple weeks prior to this, I had been riding my motocross bike in some trails there in my neighborhood. While bringing the bike back home, I passed his wife on the sidewalk. She was walking down the sidewalk with a stroller, and she hollered something at me like, slow down, and I went on by her and went on home with the bike. And maybe 20, 30 minutes later, the police showed up at my house and said that they had a report saying that I was riding the bike in their yard. I told them at that time that I wasn't riding the bike in anybody's yard. I'd taken it down the trails and back. And so,
Were you going too fast, sir?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't believe so, no. It's allowed.
Why do you think, after 3 years of no problem, all of a sudden you would have a problem with them? If I'm a good neighbor and if I'm driving a motorcycle and his wife is walking with a baby in a baby carriage.
Right.
First of all, you don't have a Rottweiler roaming around in a neighborhood where there are babies in baby carriages. Period.
Right.
End of
My
discussion.
dog doesn't roam the neighborhood.
Yes, your dog gets out and has
Right.
gotten
He has
out
broken
before.
out of the fence, like all dogs get out of their fence.
No, sir. You say that that's okay. It's not okay.
Well, I don't agree that it's okay, and I do
It's
my
not
best.
okay.
I do my best to keep the dog in the
But
fence.
your best isn't good enough.
Like I said,
Your best, Mr. White, isn't good enough.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you're driving a motorcycle and you pass a woman and she says to you, hey, slow down, and what you said is you just kept on going.
Well, yes.
No, just a minute. That's what you said.
Yes,
oh,
I
yeah,
did.
that's what I did. I just kept on going. That to me is rude. Rude!
And later today,
I agreed to loan him the money to keep him out of jail.
Your Honor, I worked on her computer at least 4 times.
So what? You're hustling me, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Philip White says neighbor Cesar Vargas shot his Rottweiler Bones. Cesar says Bones was threatening his daughter.
If you're going out and you have carpenters in your house that you know are going to be taking wood in and taking wood out, and you're not going to be there all day, you take your dog to a kennel. And you say, I want to make sure my dog doesn't get out because it's dangerous for my dog to be out in the street. It could cause a car accident. So I'm going to take my dog to the kennel for the day because I'm not around to supervise this 150-pound dog. That's what you do.
Well, if the man had shot my dog to defend his family, I would have thought that was one thing.
That's what he says he did.
That's what he says he did. And why then he told me that he didn't do it? Why did he deny it?
Because he didn't want to get
when
into
the
an
police asked
argument
him
with
why
you.
he shot the dog, he denied it to them also.
Why do you think he shot your dog?
I think he shot my dog because he, out of vindication, or maybe possibly shooting the wrong dog. Like I said, my dog's real fat popular. My dog lived on
Oi,
the roof of my
Mr.
house.
White, you ain't going to get it, sir. Listen to me.
I
You
know.
know why you're not going to get it? You're not going to get it for two reasons. First of all, if you're driving a motorcycle and you pass a woman who's walking with a baby carriage and she says to you, hey, slow down,
Right.
and that's your neighbor, and what you said is you just kept on going.
Well, yes.
No, just a minute. That's what you said.
Yes,
oh,
I
yes,
did.
that's what I did. I just kept on going. That to me is rude. Rude! Because you stop the motorcycle and you say to your neighbor, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was going too fast. I'm sorry if I frightened you. That's what you say to a neighbor. You don't say, psh.
Well,
I
obviously,
keep-
my neighbor and I aren't that close, so I mean, we
I don't care whether you're close or not.
My neighbor's there until the police
What difference is it if it's your neighbor or not? If a woman walking with a baby carriage says to you that you're driving too fast, then you stop and you say, I'm sorry.
I
You
did
seem
put
to
the
think
motorcycle-
everything you do is okay.
No.
Pay the vet bill. It's your responsibility.
Well-
And go and say, I'm sorry to your dog.
Pay the-
Goodbye.
Audience are excused. You may step out.
I was just frightened for my child.
I don't believe the time that the dog was threatening anybody.
I grabbed my shotgun.
The dog avoids people. He's never attacked or done anything that played with children.
I wasn't aiming. I just shot towards him.
I feel it's very unfair for the dog.
I just hope it doesn't happen again and none of my brothers and sisters get hurt.
And now the next case.
All parties on Cochran versus Matthews. Step forward, please.
Retired computer specialist Loretta Cochran is suing her former friend, computer technician Chris Matthews, for an unpaid loan for child support. Chris says he worked off the debt.
Miss Cochran, you claim a loan to the defendant in the amount of $5,000. You claim that you have given him certain credits. He owes you slightly less than $5,000 on the loan. Mr. Matthews says that you had an agreement, and the agreement was that it was a barter arrangement, that you gave him $5,000 and he agreed to do some work for you and half of the civilized world in exchange for the money that he needed to pay back child support. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
I know him from the local flea market at home. He ran a computer shop.
And you?
I ran a booth there selling Beanie Babies, etc.
Tell me about this loan, Miss Cochran.
Well, Chris needed to pay us back child support.
How did you find that out?
Well, he was talking about it at his shop where other people were. He was working on my personal computer, and he was talking about how he needed to raise the money to get to pay his child support. And I agreed to loan him the money to keep him out of jail.
When you say you agreed to loan him the money, either he asked you for the money or you volunteered.
No, he asked for the money.
What did he say? That's what I want to know.
Oh, gee. He wanted some help on paying the back child support.
What prompted you to give him such a large sum of money?
Well, he really promised to pay it back within...
Tell me what he said,
He
Ms.
said
Cochran. You're
that he
missing.
was getting a $4,000 income tax refund and that he would be able to pay me back within 90 days. So I thought for a short time, yes, I can do this.
He was probably concerned that he was going to go to jail unless he paid.
Yes.
Did he say that to you?
Oh, yes.
Well, I want you to tell me what he said, Ms.
Well,
Cochran.
he said he was going to have to go to jail if he didn't raise the money by February the 6th. He had to go to court. And so we went to the bank on January the 27th, I think, and got the money and gave him a cashier's check so he could pay the bill.
So he said that he would pay you back when he got his income tax refund, which would have been $4,000, and then make up the rest.
Yes.
Did he pay you anything?
He paid me nothing.
When did you first ask him for the money?
After he went to court and, you know, had some time had passed by, and I said, let's talk about this. And he would tell me to come over to the flea market, come over to the shop. He would have some money. I'd go over. He wouldn't have any money. Weeks and months went by. He moved his business and went into business with some other guys. And he paid everybody else, but he won't pay me.
All right, Mr. Matthews, now I'll hear you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I don't dispute the fact that I borrowed the money from her. We had made an agreement that I would pay the money back, and then business had dropped, and I came back to her and I said, I don't have the money. I don't know when I'll have it. I'll pay you She made the agreement that I could work it off on working on her computers, friends' computers,
Tell me about that,
and
Mr.
I guess
Matthews.
they would reimburse her that way.
Tell me about that, sir. Tell me about this new agreement. When was it? Where were you when you made
It was
this
about
new...
March, and it was at her home,
What were you doing at her home?
working on her computer.
Okay. Go ahead.
And she had said, hey, you know, you could do this kind of work. We can knock it off the bill, you know, until you can get straight and whatnot.
Yeah, for a couple of hundred.
Go ahead.
And I kept doing this work and...
Doing what work?
On the computers.
Well, how many computers
I
did you
worked
work
on her computer twice at the shop, twice at her home. I worked on her lawn keeper's computer. I just worked on another friend of hers' computer. I repeatedly worked on everything.
No, not repeatedly. You worked on her computer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And she's giving you certain credit for working on her computer because she says in her complaint, I even credited him $164 because he did some work on my computer.
Your Honor, I worked on her computer at least 4 times.
So what? She kept you out of jail. How much do you think you'd be charged in interest on a $5,000 loan?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. You're
No,
not
ma'am.
very good in math, just on computers?
Just, I don't know what the interest rate you're speaking of. You're
Any
speaking
interest
9%,
rate, sir.
15%, 20%?
Let's try 10%.
Okay. 10% would be right at $500.
So forget about her computer that you worked on. How many friends' computers did you work on under this arrangement that you claim you had with her?
2.
And who were those people?
One was her lawn keeper and one was a personal friend of hers.
And you accepted no money from these people?
From one of them I did.
2 of them.
How much? Just a second. Which one did you accept money from?
The last one that I worked on it 8 hours and I only charged her for 4 hours of labor.
So what? So forget about that one. You're hustling me, sir. Now, was that the lawn keeper or was that a friend?
That was the friend.
When did you work on the lawn keeper's computer?
Sometime in March.
And how many hours did you spend on that?
On the lawn keeper, 6 hours.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with the plaintiff with regard to her benefiting from your working on her lawn keeper's computer.
She said that she would then take it out and trade with her lawn keeper as far as taking care of her lawn.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, I paid for the computer. I paid cash.
What do you mean you paid cash for the computer?
When he fixed this computer for a friend of mine.
We're talking about the lawn
No,
keeper.
ma'am.
Well, the lawn keeper is a friend.
What difference does it make? It's not $5,000 we're talking about here, Mr. Matthews. You have an obligation. Your obligation is to pay child support. How many children do you have that's covered by this child support order?
1.
And what's your child support order?
It's $560 a month.
So in order for you to have amassed $5,000 worth of arrears, you didn't pay for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
So you shun that responsibility. This lady, a total stranger to you, says, I will loan you the money because you asked her for it. That's what you just told me. You just told me that you borrowed the money from her. Borrowed. She's not your wife, is she?
No, ma'am.
She's not your sister?
No, ma'am.
She's not your cousin?
No, ma'am.
She's not your aunt?
No, ma'am.
She's not your best friend?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So she's a stranger to you. Stranger. She took care of your responsibility for
Yes, ma'am.
your child to pay child support. Then you tell her, I don't have any money. Sorry, I thought I'd have money. I don't have money. That's what you told the mother of your child, too. I'm sorry. What do you want me to shoot me? I don't have money. Collect cans.
Your Honor, everything
Now listen
was-
to me. Collect cans. Go out, collect cans, 5 cents a piece, collect bottles, put them in, then you have money. Listen to me, sir. She's not supposed to pay your child support. You're supposed to pay your child support.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So she took the money out of the bank, which cost her interest. According to my calculations, you owe her at least $5,000 because that's how much she lost in interest. You want to say anything else to me, Mr. Matthews? And are you sure you want to say something else to me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to hear you, sir.
We made this agreement on several occasions that I would do this work for her.
But you didn't.
I've calculated work that I have done for her on 4 different occasions, and I only got $160 worth of credit off of the bill.
So what? She kept you out of jail. How long were you going to go to jail for, Mr. Matthews?
12 months.
You figure that maybe your life is worth $100 a month? Not to some people, maybe, but to you. Is it worth $100 a month?
Yes, ma'am.
$1,200? She kept you out of jail for 12 months. $1,200. Did you do more than $1,200 worth of work on her computer?
Between friends and...
Her computer.
No, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
John White says co-worker Toriano Harris owes for injuring his eye. John says Toriano ripped his cornea when he tackled him at a party.
According to your complaint, sir, you were at a New Year's Eve party.
Yes.
Mr. Harris was at the same New Year's Eve party, and you claimed that he was pretty drunk, and while not intentionally, while horsing around, he seriously injured your eye.
True.
Mr. Harris says everybody was sort of fooling around and butting each other. He didn't injure you, you were just fine, and he questions whether or not he exacerbated this pre-existing eye injury that you had.
Right.
What time did you get to the party?
Probably around 12:30.
Who did you go with?
Kathy.
Where had you been before?
At another party.
Who was driving?
I was.
Were you drinking?
Yeah.
How come you were drinking and driving?
And got caught up in the celebrations.
Was she drinking?
No.
Why didn't you let her drive?
Wasn't thinking at the time.
How much had you been drinking?
Couple cups of champagne, maybe.
Whose party was this that you arrived at 12:30?
Another co-worker's, another friend.
What time did you arrive at the party?
It was a little before 12, about 11:30.
Where had you been previous to 11:30?
I live across the street, so I walked across the street to the party.
So you hadn't had any alcohol before 11:30?
Nope. Ma'am.
And what were you drinking between 11:30 and 12:30?
Had about 2 beers.
Who did you come to the party with?
By myself.
Were you by yourself the beginning part of the evening?
Yes, I was.
That sounds pretty lonely on a New Year's Eve, Mr. Harris.
Well, I had just got off work, and then I went home and found out it was a party across the street, and it was somebody who I work with. So I was invited, so I walked across the street.
Okay, so now that we've laid the foundation of this evening, you were there by yourself, you had a date, you arrived at 12:30, you arrived at 11:30, you were sober as a judge.
Yes, ma'am.
Before 11:30, after that you had a couple of beers.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what happened at 12:30 when you arrived, Mr. White.
I came in the house, I mingled a little bit, had some more drinks. Probably 45 minutes to an hour after that time of mingling. Mr. Harris here was just a little bit out of control. He was obviously way drunker than he said he was. He was so out of control that me and some of the other guests removed ourselves from the living room of the party to like the front porch, patio type area, holding the door, keeping him from coming in. He eventually got up there on the patio where he continued his behaviors.
Describe his behavior to me, please.
Out of control is the only word I can use. He jumping around, spitting liquor at us, loud, screaming. He got down into like a football stance and just rushed me.
Describe that to me. Show me. What's a football stance?
Out here?
Yeah.
A football stance.
Okay, that kind of, okay. All right.
Brushed my legs, grabbed me by the legs, and I don't know if he was trying to put me in a wrestling move or just whatever, but as I was going down, his head hit my eye, causing the stitches that I had from a previous surgery to bust. And
What kind of surgery had you had on your eye?
I had a cornea transplant.
When?
September 20th.
You have the medical records for me?
Yes.
I'd like to see them, please. That's the injury that you're talking about, being bumped in the head by him and the
Yes.
stitches coming apart.
As
Did you go to the emergency room that day?
Yes, I did.
Who took you?
My friend here, Kathy. I actually went home to. Went back to
Kathy,
the
you have a
hospital.
last name.
Smith.
You took him to the emergency room?
Yes.
Immediately after being bumped in the head, did you leave the party?
Well, after I got hit in the eye, like I say, he took me to the ground. I think that was the initial impact. And once I was on the ground, he went for probably a headlock and came across my eye again, taking me back to the ground as I was getting up. And at that point, it was when I crawled to the bathroom, tried to wipe the little blood that I did have, and then I left the party.
How many surgeries did you have subsequent to this incident?
3.
Were you scheduled to have any other surgeries after
No.
the initial corneal transplant?
Right. I was doing.
You were doing
it was in
fine.
the period of my recovery process.
Okay, Mr. Harris, I'm going to hear you, sir.
We was at the party. We had a couple drinks. I had a couple drinks. I knew he was already there, and he was already drinking, because I can already tell the way he was talking.
You arrived first.
No, he arrived first.
No, you arrived first. You said you arrived at 11:30. They didn't arrive until 12:30.
No, he was there first before me.
Okay, keep going.
I already knew that he had been drinking because the way the slur of his speech he was talking. As the struck clock to 12, we all just was having fun. It was party, horse playing, high five. We bumped chests. Then all of a sudden, a buddy of mine had picked me up I'm looking around like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So then all of a sudden, he grabbed me. So when he grabbed me, I broke him off of me. And then he fell to the ground, I guess injuring his eye then. He was the aggressor. I wasn't the aggressor. He put his hands on me first.
Did you see what happened?
No, he did. I was in the other room. I'm the one that just witnessed.
Tell me your name, sir.
My name is Brian Dukes.
Do you know both of these gentlemen?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you known them?
About 3 years.
Both?
Yes.
Both nice people?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What time did you arrive at the party that night?
It was after midnight.
Were you out on the porch when this incident
Yes,
occurred?
ma'am.
Tell me what you saw, please.
I'm pretty much a witness to his pretty much out of control behaviors, Mr. Harris. He pretty, like Mr. White here said, he did get down, crouch down in the football stands, and did attack Mr. White here.
Just describe to me what you saw. He got down in a football stance.
Football stands. Then he like just rushed him, just grabbed his legs and like took him down to the ground.
Did you assist him in cleaning up his eye?
No, ma'am.
You were just a guest at the party?
Yes.
Did you come with an escort?
No, ma'am.
Were you the only one with a date that night?
No. No.
Okay. I read your complaint that you had a video.
Yes.
Somebody was taking pictures of that
The
evening.
homeowner of the party actually was recording the whole incident.
I'd like to see it, please. Mr. Dukes, you can have a seat, sir.
Thank you.
This is the point here. This was like I said, well past 12:30. He's actually finna start spitting liquor at us. You can't hear it, but he's screaming, yelling, profanity, whatnot. This in the background. This the patio. Now this the patio area here where we at. That's the homeowner's friend, telling him that he needs to go, but he's not hearing anything. That's the charge. Right there, you can see me holding my eye as I'm going back. And he jumps on me again. I'm trying to get up now. I brought back down. At this point here, this is where I told him, I didn't use these words, but you just messed my eye up. And he was like, all right, get up, I got you. I'm crawling off into the bathroom now. As he comes back out, he attempted to do this again, but he will stop. This was a separate person here, separate incident. And so that's the homeowner there. At this point, she was just really fed up with him. That's him hitting the door, banging on her front door, glass door.
What you're supposed to say, Mr. Harris, is, I drank too much, I was an idiot. I'm sorry I hurt you, and I'm going to pay your bills. You're not supposed to make excuses, sir. Have you seen this video before?
No.
You've never seen it before?
Never seen it
Why
before.
didn't you show him this video before? Maybe he would understand the nature of his actions.
In this process, I've reached out to him twice, not asking him to pay the bills, just to help him. Like I said, we have been friends for some time. I knew that he didn't just have this money in his pocket, but if he would have just assisted, no, I don't. But if he had just assisted with the help, we probably wouldn't be here.
I'm waiting.
If he knew that his eye was messed up, why would he come to a party and have fun anyway? I mean, but you know, sometimes when you're at a party, everybody get, you know, everybody horseplay. At least they do where I'm from.
You want to take this one, or what do you want me to do?
I don't know. There are good questions and there are bad questions. That's a bad question.
You know that if you have some delicate surgery, the chances of that surgery becoming infected, inflamed, that can become dislodged, that happens. Is what you're suggesting, sir, that if you have this kind of surgery, you stay in your room? You work at a place where I assume sometimes it gets physical.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's his job. So he has to go to work. And you take care as best as you can to make sure that the people that you're working with don't hurt you, don't exacerbate a condition that already exists. When you go to a New Year's Eve party, you expect to have a little bit of alcohol, sometimes, and sometimes you even expect people to act stupid. You don't expect them to act very stupid. And when you act very stupid, Mr. Harris, and you hurt somebody, you have to be responsible and pay for it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you this question, sir. You live across the street from this party.
Yes, ma'am.
You were pretty drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me give you this scenario. You're walking back to your house and you're pretty drunk and you're not looking where you were going. And a car is coming down the street. They're Perfectly fine. Nobody's drinking in that car. They're driving. But you dart out into the middle of the street, and that car swerves to avoid you. And the people in that car are seriously injured because they hit a tree. Are you going to tell me that you think on New Year's Eve people shouldn't drive their cars because drunks sometimes walk in the middle of the road? That's the same kind of philosophy that you're trying to sell me when you say, listen, when you go to a New Year's Eve party, everybody gets drunk and they horse around. You can horse around without being an idiot. Would you like to show your boss that video?
I don't want to show nobody that video.
Well, you should have thought of that before you came here, Mr. Harris. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Ted Kelly is suing his granddaughter's friend, 18-year-old Nicholas Rundy, for crashing his car while driving intoxicated. Nicholas says the accident wasn't his fault.
Mr. Kelly, this is your
granddaughter.
And you own a car?
Yes.
You let your granddaughter use the car?
Yes.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 2002 Pontiac Grand Am.
You're a very, very good grandpa.
Yeah, I try to be.
How many grandchildren do you have?
4.
Is this the oldest?
Yes.
You don't play favorites, do you?
Try not to.
Try not. I know. Well, Mr. Rundy over here wrecked your car. And he says, it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you wreck Mr. Kelly's car?
April 4th, I do believe.
At what time of the day or evening did you wreck his car?
Around 10 o'clock at night.
Where had you been earlier that evening?
Over at Alicia's house.
How many people were at Alicia's house?
Her, myself, Philip, and 2 of my friends.
So 1 girl.
1 girl.
And 4 boys.
4 boys.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ted Kelly claims his granddaughter's friend, 18-year-old Nicholas Rundy, wrecked his car during a night of drinking. Nicholas says Ted's granddaughter is also to blame.
Now, how old is Alicia?
18.
And who does she live with?
By herself.
By herself?
Mm-hmm.
What time did you get there?
8 o'clock probably. She called Philip's cell phone to have us come over just to hang out.
Don't offer me any information that I didn't ask for, Mr. Rundy.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll get all the information I need. At what time did you take Mr. Kelly's car?
9:30 or so.
How much had you been drinking?
A couple glasses of mixed drink.
Of what?
Rum, I do believe.
Who mixed them?
We did.
Who's we?
Me and Philip and everybody. They were pouring our own drinks.
Who mixed your drink?
Me.
And who mixed your second drink?
Myself.
And if you had a third drink, who would have mixed your third drink?
Myself.
Where did you get the mixers from?
We didn't have any mixers. We were just pouring them from the bottle.
Well, then that's not a mixed drink. Unless you were mixing scotch and rye, and you weren't mixing alcohol, were you?
No.
Because that would have been really dumb.
Right.
So were you having straight drinks or mixed drinks?
Straight drinks.
So you had a few straight drinks, and you took the car about 9 o'clock at night. Who was in the car with you when you took it?
Philip.
And at what point did the car get wrecked?
Around 9:45, I do believe.
Did you receive any sort of citation that day from the police department?
No, ma'am.
Did the police arrive at the scene?
Yes.
Did they give you a breathalyzer test?
No.
Did they take you to a hospital?
No, they just questioned me about the car and arrested me for public intoxication.
So you didn't get a citation, you got arrested.
Yeah.
So if you got arrested for public intoxication, you must have been really drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were driving.
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
My father now.
Did your mother throw you out?
No, I had to move.
Why?
Wasn't doing the right thing in Indiana.
Is that where your mother lives?
Yes, ma'am.
So your mother had enough of you moved to?
Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Who does your father live with?
Himself and me and my brother.
And what are you doing in Florida now?
About to go to school and just looking for a job
right now you're doing nothing?
Yeah.
About to go to school, about to get a job, right now you're doing nothing?
Yeah, I just moved down there.
Now, Mr. Rundy, you are going to explain to me, sir, why this accident was not your fault. Or please pay careful attention, because in case I miss something, I really want somebody to give me a poke to be able to say, you missed it, you know, you missed the important part.
I'm here for you.
Thank you.
All right.
We're both all ears, Mr. Rundy.
I'm not trying to say that it's not my fault.
Well, that's what you said in the answer. You said, let me tell you what you said in the answer, Mr. Rundy, which caused me to do this torturing routine that I did for the last 5 minutes.
Right.
Alicia, the other 18-year-old idiot who was drinking that night with 4 guys, she's the reason why I had to go to jail. That's what you wrote here.
I didn't know.
And had to take classes for first-time offenders. Did you have to take classes for
Yes,
first-time
I did.
offenders? I was surprised to learn that Mr. Kelly is suing me. Alicia should pay her grandfather for the money he is asking. Mr. Kelly is suing the wrong person. That's what you wrote. So now what you're telling me is that was all a big mistake?
No, it's not a big mistake. I feel she should have some responsibility in her car. I know what I did was wrong, and I know that, but
She wasn't in the car.
she gave me the keys to her car, though.
Yeah.
So where's the responsibility come in at?
How much do you owe?
180?
You think that she could carry you, put you in the car, take your hand, put the key in the ignition,
I have no
turn it
idea.
on? You don't think she could do that, do you?
No.
Only you could do that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're the one who poured your own alcohol.
Yes, ma'am.
You're the one who put the glass to your lips and guzzled it down.
Yes, ma'am.
You're the one that took your behind and put it behind the wheel of a car where you could have killed somebody.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're the one who's going to pay for Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, were you able to have the car fixed?
Yes, I was.
And how much did it cost you, Mr. Kelly?
Over $5,000.
You have the bill for it?
Yes.
Can I see it, please? Mr. Kelly, your granddaughter Alicia, I must tell you, I believe, did not act responsibly that evening. That doesn't mean that he's off the hook. That just means that if I were you, I wouldn't give her back the car.
I'm sorry.
Did you give her back the car?
Yes, after I got it fixed.
That was a big mistake. I wouldn't have given her back the car. She behaved irresponsibly. You understand that, don't you?
Yes.
Taking advantage of your grandfather. I wouldn't let you take advantage of me. I'll tell you that right now. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. Mr. Rundy, you better get busy and get back to Florida. Hurry up, hustle, get a job. Hustle, hustle, bustle.
All right.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Ralph Teeter says the mother of his children, April Pyatt, owes for bail money after she was arrested for passing bad checks.
Mr. Teeters, how many children do you and the defendant have together?
3.
3. How old are they?
8, 5, 2.5.
You've never married?
No.
For my own information, any particular reason why?
I've tried. Her rings keep getting pawned.
Did she pawn one after your 8-year-old was born?
Yeah.
And after your 5-year-old was born?
Yeah.
You don't learn.
No. I was trying for a family.
She wasn't
You
interested.
can't make something stay together.
Well, you got a family, 8, 5, and 2. The children live with you?
Yeah, but we don't have 3 children together. We have 2. And I have one from a different relationship.
How old is that child?
2.
The last one is not yours, is that right?
No, I raised her for a year and a half before I found out. So in my eyes, she's mine.
Okay. Your complaint is that you bailed Miss Pyatt out of jail, $1,000. You want your bail money back.
Correct.
Miss Pyatt has a defense. I don't understand it, but I'm sure she'll explain it to me. When did you bail her out of jail?
I bailed her out on Valentine's Day.
What was she in jail for?
Bad checks. She had a heyday, just writing checks.
On whose account?
Hers.
She wrote checks on an account where there was no funds, according to you. There were no funds to cover the checks.
Yes, ma'am.
When did she write those checks?
The late end of 2004 to beginning of 2005.
Did you know about the bad checks?
I didn't know about them at the moment, but after I found out, I took out a set of loans, paid off the first set.
He was
didn't
with
stop
me
her.
on some-
Just a second.
It didn't stop her. She kept going. So, I mean, I
You
can't
were
keep
living
paying.
together at the time.
Yes.
How much of a loan did you take out to pay out the first set of checks?
I believe it was 1,100.
Tell me about her arrest on the bad checks.
On the 12th or 13th, she got up in a bad mood, decided to stomp through my coffee table. So I told her she needed to go or I was calling the cops. Called the cops, they picked her up. My daughter found out about it. She didn't want her mommy in jail, so I went to her mother and her mom offered 500 and I put up the other 1,000. I bailed her.
You went to her mother and got 500.
Right,
And then you put up the other 1,000
right,
because your daughter didn't want her mommy in jail.
right.
Go ahead.
I shouldn't have to pay for her getting in trouble. I helped her out because my daughter wanted her out. You know, I shouldn't be stabbed in the back for being nice.
So, what is the theory of your court case?
I want my money back. I mean,
Well, I know, but what's the theory of your case?
I'm tired of paying for a relationship that ain't there.
Mr. Teeters, is that matter still pending? The
What
bad
matter?
checks, has that matter been
No,
resolved?
I paid it in full. And not with the money, the bond money.
Just a second. Are you on probation?
No.
What happened?
I paid a fine of $25 a piece, and I paid the amount of the checks that I wrote. And they were wrote in a 3-day period. They weren't wrote.
They were, first of all, written.
Yes, they were written.
Did you plead guilty and accept a fine and restitution, or was the matter still pending? Do you have to go to court? Do you have a lawyer? I want to know what...
No, I pled guilty. And
so you pled guilty?
Yes.
And you were given a fine?
Yes.
And restitution?
Yes.
Who are you living with now?
My husband.
When did you get married?
April 18th.
Is he the father of any of your children?
No, he's not.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Do you see your children?
Only at her convenience. See, the guy that she's married to is the one she come to me for help from. She come to me saying she'd been beaten, she needed help, wanted away. I tried to help her out.
You mean when she was...
Right
the
before
time
she
you
was...
called the police,
Yeah.
she had come back to your house?
Yeah, and the only reason she was even there in the first place is because she'd been beaten by this guy.
Is that true?
I think if you were beaten, you'd have bruises and marks.
I don't ask... Don't...
No, it was not true.
Why did you go back to Mr. Teeter's house?
Because I was angry with Ed, and I needed...
What were you angry with Ed about?
He was keeping track of my income tax money and being controlling.
How long had you and Mr. Teeters been separated when you went back?
For 10 months.
So is what you're telling me, Miss Pyatt, that you went back to him and said, Ed is being controlling and I don't want to live with him anymore? Can you help me? Or did you say that he was being abusive?
I said I was mad at him and angry with him, and that I wanted to rent my own home for my children and me, and if he could help me out.
A church rented her an apartment or a motel room for a battered woman's thing, and that's where they only did it for one day, and I took over. And as far as her renting a place, I've got receipts here from where I pawned all of my rifles.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. I'm going to give you some advice. I understand that you're tired of paying for her, but she did not borrow this money from you, and you did not loan her this bail money. According to you, you called the police because she was acting out in your home. The only reason you went to bail her out of jail, according to you, is because your daughter was crying and said, I don't want my mommy in jail.
And she had agreed that me and her mother both get the money back.
No, well, I didn't hear that, sir.
I could have sworn I told you earlier that on the phone, whenever I talked to her, she had agreed that her mother get back the 5 and I get back the 1,000.
When did she tell you that?
That was the night before I bailed her out.
She called you, I assume?
Called her mother's.
And you were at her mother's?
Yes.
What were you doing there?
I was asking for help for her. Where April called, they'd been contacting me, trying to get up on money.
And what did you say?
I'd said I'd do what I could.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
He was at my brother's house when I contacted him, and I called and asked him that I had some money in my purse, which was $820, and that the rest of the money I needed help to come up with if he could contact one of my aunts or someone to help me come up with the rest of the money. But he ended up that night in the same jail I was in for possession of felony drug charges. So we were in jail together.
Not my drugs.
And I have proof of that.
Just a second, were you in jail that evening?
Yes.
For what?
I got picked up for wearing the jacket she was wearing whenever she got arrested.
Go ahead.
He was in the same jail until the next day when he was released. He came and brought my money that was in my purse, the money of my mom had gave him.
Well, how much was your bail?
$1,500.
And your mother gave him $500?
Yeah.
Leaving $1,000 left?
Yeah, $180, I don't know where it came from. He put that up somehow, and then $820 was in my purse when I went to jail.
Where did you get $820?
I worked, and my income tax check had just came in.
Where were you working?
A grocery store.
And you kept your money? You didn't put your money in a bank? You kept
I
it all in
couldn't.
your
I wrote bad
purse?
checks.
She'd have to be saving for months at $5.15 an hour.
No, I had income tax returns of $1,700.
Show me.
Okay. And I also have where he went to jail and an ex parte order and a copy of what I spent my income tax on that he was keeping my witness. That's part of the reason why I left.
You have the stub from this check that you got?
No, I don't believe so.
How much did you receive?
$1,700 and something.
What'd you do with it?
I cashed it.
Where?
At my husband's bank, U.S. Bank. At the time, he was just my boyfriend.
So your husband had a bank, and you cashed this.
Mm-hmm.
When did you cash it?
It was at the beginning of February, I do believe.
So you still had this money 2.5...
A month and a little over a month. When I went to jail.
2.5 months later.
Yeah, I had part of it. I didn't have all of it. I only had about
I don't believe you.
I was saving it so I didn't go to jail.
I don't believe you. I don't believe that you had $820 in cash in your pocketbook. Don't buy it.
Yeah, I had it.
I don't believe you. I also don't believe that there was a loan.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
You got to prove that to me, sir. Now, I believe that you called the police on her, and they came, they arrested her. Your daughter said to you, I don't want mommy in jail. You felt badly according to you, so you went to her mother to see how you could both put together enough money to get her out of jail. That's what you told me.
Okay, and I work hard for my money. I've got custody of my 8-year-old daughter.
No, we don't. We don't either one have custody. We haven't gone to court.
I've got where DFS gave me primary custody over her until it goes through a judge.
That's not a legal document, is what they told me, and they told me that
If it wasn't a legal document,
that's just
you'd
so
be
she
allowed
don't
to-
have to change schools. It's so close to the end of school year.
Okay.
I have papers from my lawyer stating.
Why do you have to agree to withdraw from any and all drug activity?
Oh, that's the allegations by her. I've taken multiple UAs from
I have
DFS.
proof of that where he's been arrested.
I've taken multiple UAs from DFS that they drop on me on a random. To where if I would have failed one of those, my daughter would be in her custody and
He
would
could
not
take
be in
stuff
mine
to
now.
make sure the test passed.
Along with, I went ahead and I agreed to her restraining order, even though on here it's got the dates and everything that I pulled these rifles on her. But that's where I also got conned into, please help me get a place, my boyfriend's abusive, and pawned my rifles.
Oh, God, what a dysfunctional group. I feel sorry for all of your children.
Yeah.
Your daughter is living with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's kept her
And
away
you
from me for 2 months. I haven't even got to see her.
Listen to me, madam. You think that I believe that you moved back in with him even for a couple of days because you told him that your boyfriend was being controlling about your income tax return money?
I just asked him
It
to stay
didn't
there.
happen that way, Miss Pyatt. It didn't happen that way. You went back to him and said he's beating me up and he's assaultive. I need a place to stay, and he helped you out. I mean, the fact that he's stupid, he doesn't get any rewards from that. He also did not make a loan for this.
I wouldn't say he was beating me up. That's
Miss Pyatt, certain things make sense and certain things don't make sense. It doesn't make sense for somebody to take you back into their house with 3 children, only 2 of whom are his, biologically. If you said to him, I'm not getting along with my boyfriend.
He was stalking me the whole time. He kept begging me to come back.
He was stalking you?
Yeah, he hid out in the bushes.
He was stalking you the whole time, so you went back to him? Is that what you're telling
Yeah,
me, Miss Pyatt?
it's stupid my own
You're an
part,
idiot.
yeah.
Anyway, you're an idiot, but you're an idiot who doesn't owe him any money. Mr. Teeters, I suggest that you put it down. I suggest, Mr. Teeters, that if you believe that you are a more appropriate caretaker of your children than the defendant, that you follow through with any custody proceedings that are currently pending. I think that both of you, I don't know how old you are, sir, but certainly she has to grow up. You work?
Yes, I do.
What do you do?
Roofing.
Good. You keep your hands to yourself. That's all.
Jennifer Richardson says her estranged mother-in-law, Sandra Richardson, refuses to hand over title on a car she bought from her. Sandra is countersuing, claiming Jennifer stole appliances from her home.
Miss Richardson, this is your soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, and I assume that sitting in a witness chair is your soon-to-be ex-husband.
Yes.
Okay. According to you, you purchased a home for your son and his wife, and the idea was that you and your husband were going to live with them. Unfortunately, your husband became ill and passed away.
The house was originally bought for us.
Yes, the house was originally
With
bought.
our money.
No, well, sorry, Your Honor.
No, it was your money.
Well, can I just say something? If she wants to lie about
No, just a second.
10,000.
Just a second. Who paid the mortgage on the house?
I did. It was in my name.
I didn't ask you if it was in your name. I said who paid the mortgage.
For the first 8 months, my husband and I did. When they moved in, they shared the responsibility.
That's what I gathered. The first several months, you and your husband were making the mortgage payments on the house, and then you and your husband moved in, and then you split the mortgage payments, right?
Yeah.
But the house was purchased for them, and they were there alone for a period of time. Anyway, the house is really not the issue unless
It
we
was
get to the
purchased with our
counter. Don't
money.
interrupt me. House isn't really the issue until we get to the counterclaim. We're going to talk about the house in a moment. This has to do with the car that you purchased in your name, but that your daughter-in-law used, but your daughter-in-law used it to take you around from place to place, all your appointments. She sort of chauffeured you around. Anyway, there came a time when you left the house, and shortly after you leaving the house, your daughter-in-law and son split up.
Right.
Your daughter-in-law went home to her family. Where do you live now?
That's not what happened.
Where do you live now?
I live with my mother.
In what state?
In Florida.
And where do you live?
Michigan.
Okay. Did you take the car with you?
At what
Where
time?
is the car now?
My husband has it.
Okay. It is your claim that You wanted the car, and your mother-in-law said you have to pay for it. You were annoyed that she said that you had to pay for it because you always thought it was your car, but you sent her $3,000. She doesn't deny that you sent her the $3,000, but she never sent you the title to the car and never sent you the car. So you want something. You want either the car or you want your $3,000. Mother-in-law says the $3,000 was for other bills that were outstanding. And in addition, she's counterclaiming because she says when you moved out of the house, you took her property, some appliances and things that belonged to her. So I'm going to cut right to the chase. Mrs. Richardson, since you acknowledge that your daughter-in-law sent you $3,000, what did she send you the money for?
I asked for $5,000 for the car. She sent me $3,000. They owed me like $6,000 just back rent, so I don't figure the car is paid for.
Wrong. If you asked $5,000 for the car and she sent you $3,000, you can't offset that. Get the money that they owe you from rent from your son. Get it from him, not from her.
May I speak?
When it's your turn.
Okay.
She stole $20,000 worth of appliances and stuff.
Listen to
from
me.
my home.
When you purchased this house, for the first 8 months, where she and your son lived there, were the appliances in the house?
There was old appliance. I purchased all brand new appliances.
And when you went home, after your husband died, when you left, in what month was that?
Around May, about the middle of May.
Of 06? And when did the two of you split up?
August.
And between May of 06 and August of 06, where were the appliances?
They were in the home when I left.
And where did you go? From Florida back to Michigan?
Michigan.
And what did you take with you when you went?
I took a clock, my big TV, left leather furniture, all the appliances, everything in the home when I left because it cost me so much to move all the stuff. So I left it for the kids.
Absolutely right. So it was a gift. So let me explain something to you, Miss Richardson. Don't get involved between your son and your daughter-in-law. The courts will determine if she took marital property, because once you made a gift to them, you didn't make a gift to your son. Listen to me.
Okay.
You made a gift to them. You left it when you moved back to Michigan in May. You left it as a gift for the kids. And if they had stayed together as husband and wife, they would have had all the appliances. The problem is they split up. And then you said, well, I don't want her. She's a stranger to me now. She can't take this property. I bought it. It was a gift. Once you give a gift, you can't have sticky fingers. You can't say, well, it's a gift, but I'm going to hold on to it.
But I bought it as myself because I lived there.
I don't care. When you left it there. And you didn't abandon it along with the leather sofa. You took what you wanted. You took a grandfather clock. You took other things that were important to you. And you left the other things there for your children. Then. So it therefore became marital property.
She had no reason to steal it, though.
She didn't steal it. It was a gift.
It wasn't really a gift.
Well,
it
Miss
was 'cause I
Richardson,
lived
I'm
there.
trying to explain to you, madam, you're not getting what the law is.
Okay.
That's the law. And if your son, during the course of the divorce proceeding, says, well, she took this marital property and she had no right to take the marital property, a judge will decide that. But it's not yours. You can't sue for it. You gave it away. You gave it away to them. And as between the two of them, a court will determine whose property it was, whether she cleaned out the house or whether she didn't. But it's not yours anymore. You gave it away. Let's get to the car. When did you tell your daughter-in-law that you wanted $5,000 for the car?
Before I left the home.
So that was in May of 06. Is that what she told you in May of 06? She wanted $5,000?
My husband and I discussed it, and I told him I don't feel I owe her anything for this car. I have been a personal slave to her, driven her anywhere she's asked me to go.
Well, listen to me.
Broken in
Don't speak. Just because you think that doesn't make it the law. Car is titled in her name. You took her where she had to go. You also used it for yourself when you had to go to, I don't know, bowling, Pilates, hairdresser appointment, whatever. Right. You took the car yourself. So in exchange for that, you had a car. And what you did was you drove your mother-in-law around. When you weren't driving her around, you were using it yourself. So whether you thought that you were entitled to it or not, that's totally irrelevant. She said she wanted $5,000 for the car. You go back to Florida. When did you have a discussion with her and send her $3,000?
My husband and I discussed it, and I said all I can get is $3,000.
Where did you get the $3,000 from? Look at me. Don't look down there.
My mother obtained a loan.
When?
It would be late May, and I made the deposit in June 20th.
Before you and your husband separated?
Yeah.
And you gave her a check in late May for the $3,000.
Well, she was gone, so we deposited the check into her bank account, and we gave her the mortgage money as well. You'll see it's $4,000.
No. That has nothing to do with it. She already told me. She wanted $5,000. You sent her $3,000. She considered it for other bills. She can't do that. Where's the title to the car?
The original title was destroyed.
And here's what I paid for the car.
Can be destroyed?
Here, ma'am.
Lost in the mail.
What?
Lost. She took my mail for 6 months. I spent $80,000 on that house.
Who's living in it?
It's empty. I can't even sell
Just
it.
a second. Who's living in it?
Nobody's living in it.
Why isn't he living in it?
He lives here in Michigan with me now.
Oh, well.
But I just lost
Because if I'm down there, she makes my life miserable.
Listen to me.
$80,000.
I'm not speaking
so.
to you.
Okay.
I'm not speaking to you.
Sorry.
If your mother's out some money, get a job and make sure she's whole. Miss Richardson, you cannot take her money. That money was for the car. That's what it was for. That was before they separated, so that you went back to Michigan, right, without the car.
Right.
And she got the money from her mother. This is her car. It is not your car. Don't get in between your son and his wife if they're in the process of divorcing.
So this $80,000 that I spent, I know she got money, she kept my mail, she run my cell phone up to $1,000.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You could sue her for certain things, but you can't keep this money. And if you spent $80,000, you spent $80,000 on your son, not on your daughter-in-law. You spent $80,000 on your son because, but for your son, listen, if she came to you and you didn't know her from a hole in the wall and she wasn't married to your son, you wouldn't have spent a quarter on her. You spent the money because you wanted your son to be comfortable. And if he was married to this lady, well, she's the beneficiary of that. So the house isn't in her name. The house is in your name.
I'm losing that, too. So.
Well, sell it. Meanwhile, you have to sign the title to the car over to her because the car belongs to her. You accepted the money for it?
But it's not paid for.
What do you mean it's not paid for?
$3,000 isn't $5,000.
Listen to me. You said you wanted $5,000 to them before you left. There was conversations that took place between the three of you. There's no question in my mind about that. There is also no question in my mind that you accepted the $3,000 in payment for the car because you took it and you spent it. It wasn't until 3 months later when they separated that you said, well, that money was for other things. No.
So she
doesn't go that way. This is her car. And don't put yourself in the middle of these two people. You spent money. It's unfortunate. The marriage didn't work out. The marriage didn't work out, and it's over. And there were certain things that she took appliances from the house. I'm sure that there were certain things that your son took. What did you take from the house, sir? Stand up next to your mother and just answer my questions. Now that you moved back to Michigan, what did you take with you or sell?
Nothing. Because she emptied the house.
No, listen to me. She didn't empty the house.
Yeah.
She took the appliances, according to your mother.
Emptied it. My clothes, every personal belonging I had premarital. She emptied the house. I came back to an empty house. My mom blew $80,000.
Just a second. Did you take everything from the house?
Yes.
Everything.
Just a second. Shh. Don't speak. Did you take everything from the house?
Not every single thing, no.
Yes, she did.
Don't speak. What did you take from the house?
I took whatever I would need to have the kids having the same normal life they had before.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
One to be 12 and one to be 5.
Don't speak. Don't speak. Where were you living? In Michigan?
When I moved out,
Where did you go?
I didn't have a home.
So where did you go?
I went to a friend's home.
Boyfriend.
And it's going to be over. Do you understand? It's going to be over. What state do you live in now?
Florida.
Which is where you lived as a marital couple?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Why did you move back to Michigan when you have 2 children in Florida?
Because she was trying to get me put in jail. She stole everything. She come into my motel room and took my pool stick, and I'm a professional pool player.
Listen to me.
After she emptied the house, took my dad's wedding band he wore for 43 years that's worth $20. It's 10 karat gold that belongs to my mother. All 9 of my pool sticks. all my clothes, 3 different cell phones that she came to my hotel room to get in my hotel room to take the stuff, and I filed a
asked you a question, sir. The question is a simple one.
It's just all the truth.
The question
we're
is
saying, so.
That's why I moved.
The question is a simple one.
Right.
How do you move clear across country when you have 2 children?
Because there's a lady that's trying to put me in jail and comes to where I am when I try to ignore her to steal things I have. Excuse me.
Let us sign over the car, please. I would run away from him, too.
Really?
Sign it. The car belongs to her. It's your problem how to get it, but the car belongs to her.
Well, she should owe me $1,000 for cell phones that she stole.
Just then sue her for the cell phones.
Well, where am I going to do that at? I mean, she steals and took money, took my checks for 6 months and taken my money out of the bank and everything.
Give the title to the car. That's what she wants. Counterclaim is dismissed. Very unfortunate situation. You got yourself in the middle of something. You have 2 grandchildren. You should never do that, madam. When you have 2 grandchildren, listen to me. You have 2 grandchildren.
I don't see them either.
Excuse me?
I won't see them either. She's the one.
She wouldn't let her see her grandchildren when
Madam,
we lived together.
I'm telling you something. You're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. You have a son who I've only met for a short period of time. He's not wrapped too tight. But you're the grandmother. You're the grandmother. And if you have 2 grandchildren, I don't know if he's your only child or not, or if you have other children. If he's your only child, I sort of get it. So that these are your only 2 grandchildren. I would not have gotten into a situation with her where you end up in court. Just pay attention. Don't look at him with rose-colored glasses. You have to know who your children are. You have to be fair. You have to be dispassionate. She may not be perfect, but you have to know who your children are. You got it?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Jennifer Day is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Spencer Fenimore, for breaking a lease. Spencer claims there was no lease to break.
Miss Day, you and Mr. Fenimore lived together for a period of time, signed a lease on an apartment, lived together during the course of that lease. The lease was renewed, according to you, for another 6 months, and Mr. Fenimore moved out after a month or so. You want him to be responsible for his half of the remainder of the lease. Mr. Fenimore, while he acknowledges that you signed an initial lease together, his defense is that he did not sign the renewal that you must have signed for him. You knew that he was intending to leave, that things weren't going well between the 2 of you, and he is not responsible for the second part of the lease. So can I see the first lease that you signed? When did you move in together?
It was, I believe, December 2004.
Well, the lease was signed November 2005.
I think it was 2004. I'm not real correct on that.
Well, what am I looking at? November 29, 2005. What?
That's probably our renewal lease.
I didn't ask for the renewal. I asked for the original lease.
This isn't the actual lease, but it's part of the first lease that has the 12/8/04 date that Spencer was speaking of.
Can I see it, please? Okay. So the original was signed on 12/8/04, and you claim the renewal was signed by him on November 29th, 2005.
That's correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you sign the renewal?
Yes.
You said in your answer you didn't sign the renewal.
I signed the renewal that went from November 2005 until May 2006. She's suing me from May 2006 to November 2006.
Got it. So who has that renewal?
The one that I handed to you shows that we went in the office and verbally renewed, and I have a letter from the office dated June 1st.
You can't verbally renew. Cannot verbally renew a 6-month lease. That's ridiculous. He says he did not renew the lease. You have no proof that he did renew the lease.
If he didn't want to renew the lease, Your Honor, he shouldn't have stayed there till July.
Because then you can have a month-to-month tenancy.
Okay.
You can have a month-to-month tenancy and pay every month until the landlord says, listen, I don't want to give you a month-to-month tenancy anymore. You have to leave within 30 days. Then you leave.
Right.
But you can't obligate him. Sorry. Case is dismissed.
Bridget Johnson claims ex-boyfriend Robert Jones owes for an assault and for funeral costs for their child. Robert claims the deceased child wasn't his.
Miss Jones, according to the complaint that I've read, the defendant was your boyfriend. You became pregnant sometime in 2005.
Yes.
You broke up with the defendant and you were pregnant at the time.
Yes.
It is your claim that he assaulted you, and as a result of that assault, your baby was born prematurely and died. You want the defendant to pay for half of the baby's funeral expenses and damages for the assault. Mr. Jones says that you were the one who assaulted him, as a matter of fact, on the day that you broke up, that he never agreed to pay for the child's funeral expenses. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even positive that the child was his and told you that he had wanted a blood test before he assumed responsibility of the baby. That's your defense?
Yes, it is.
Okay. When did you become pregnant, Miss Johnson?
I found out I was pregnant July 22nd.
Of what year?
2005.
And were you living with Mr. Jones at the time?
Robert was staying with me along with his son because he was having arguments with his mother.
Did you move in with her in July or before that time?
I'll be staying over, you know.
You were staying over?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you break up?
November 20th as a result of the assault.
Just listen to me. Had he slept at the house the night before?
Yes.
And the night before that?
Yes.
So tell me what happened on November the 20th.
November the 20th, I received a phone call from Rob at about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, then he hadn't been at your house 3 o'clock in the morning.
No, he was at the bars. He would frequently go to the bars and then come over to my house afterwards. And he had called me at 3 o'clock in the morning stating that he was going to come over. I ran downstairs and unlocked the door like I would usually do, and he didn't come in. So after a while, I looked out my window and saw that the car was parked and the headlights were on and the car was still running. So I laid there for a couple more minutes and then got dressed. And when I walked outside, I saw that Rob was passed out in the driver's seat. So I crawled into the passenger seat and woke him up and asked him, you know, what he was doing and why he hadn't come in the house, and he told me that he didn't know. So we were trying to get the headlights of the vehicle to turn off. They wouldn't turn off. So I suggested that we just unplug the battery. I was 5 months pregnant. I didn't want to be fighting with him. I would much rather just go to bed. He wanted me to, you know, be with him that night, and he wanted to be around me. So I stated, you know, let's just unplug the battery. We couldn't figure out the lights. So he started to proceed to back out of my driveway. I told him that he was drunk, that I didn't want to go anywhere with him. And he wasn't listening to me, so I leaned over and smacked him in the face. I went like this to the front of his face. He then looked at me, told me to do that again, and I looked at him and said, "What did you mean?" And the next thing I knew, he punched me in my face.
So first you punched him and then he punched you?
Yeah, I didn't punch him.
No, just a second. So first you punched him.
Yes.
And then he punched you?
Yes.
Okay, now I got it.
But the only reason I hit him is because he wasn't listening to me and he wouldn't stop the vehicle.
I gotcha.
So then my nose...
He wasn't listening to you?
Yes.
Why don't you just take the keys out of the ignition?
I didn't think of that.
You shouldn't have gotten in the car in the first place.
I shouldn't have told him to come over that evening.
That's also correct.
Knowing that he was drunk.
That is also correct.
Yes,
okay,
I agree.
Keep going.
I realized that my nose was bleeding very, very badly. So I opened the car door and I half jumped out of the car, and he like kind of gave me a little push along with it because he was laughing at the time. And I ran in the house and proceeded to call my mother first. And
so you weren't too far from where the house was?
No, I live on the second house at the corner of the block, and we were at the corner of the block.
Keep going.
I called my brother and he took me to the emergency room.
And what did they do for you there?
I first saw a police officer and they went to arrest Rob.
That doesn't answer my question. What did they do for you in the emergency room?
At the emergency room, they took x-rays of my face, and I was having a sharp pain that was shooting from my back to my stomach. So then I was told that I had to go up to the maternity floor for monitoring on the baby.
And that was in November?
Yes.
And when was the baby born?
The baby was born in February.
February what?
7th.
How much did she weigh?
She weighed 2 pounds, 2 ounces.
And when did she pass away?
The 11th.
Between November 20th and February 7th, did you see the defendant?
I saw him at the court dates.
Other than that?
No, because there was a court order for him to not be within 1,000 feet of me.
Now, when did you have this conversation with him with regard to paying for the baby's funeral expenses?
Okay, the first conversation I had with Robert was when he called me in late June after Father's Day. And I said, well, I kind of need money, you know, we should be paying for her gravestone, and I have funeral expenses that I couldn't get a grant from the state from everything. And he told me that he would give me $200 in August, and that him and his mother could save that together. I then called him on August 24th, and he told me he didn't have the money. So I said that I would pay the rest of it and that he could just pay me back. And he proceeded to say that that was fine. The next time I spoke to Robert was on September 17th when he called me and asked me if I wanted to go fishing with him with him. So I said, yeah, that I would go fishing because I wanted to speak to him about, you know, the money.
Don't tell me why. You agreed to go fishing with him.
Yes. I knew
Is this
that.
the first time you had seen him other than the courthouse? Listen to me.
No.
Other than the court proceeding, is this the first time you saw him since November?
Other than court and then our daughter's birth, no.
Well, you didn't tell me about the daughter's birth.
My sister called him the morning that I was supposed to have a cesarean section. I was diagnosed with preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure, and then it becomes toxic and it affects the baby's heart rate. And the first time I had high blood pressure was December 20th, and it proceeded to get worse throughout the pregnancy due to stress-related causes.
Don't tell me what it was due to, madam, unless you're a physician. Are you a physician?
No.
Good. Go ahead.
My sister called him the morning that I was supposed to have the cesarean section. He showed up shortly after our daughter was born, and I asked him if it would be okay with him to go up with her to the hospital up in the cities, because we live in Mankato, and she was being airlifted to Minneapolis. He said that he would go and be with her because they didn't expect her to live past the night. The next day, I was released from the hospital, and the following morning, Robert came down from the cities and took us up to the cities where the hospital was because we weren't aware of where it was.
What do you mean he took you? How did he take you?
We followed him.
What do you mean you followed him?
My mother and sister and I followed him in a different vehicle. Him and his mother drove in their own vehicle. So when we got to the cities, he went to a basketball tournament and left us with my daughter so I could spend time with her. And then later on that evening, he came back to the hospital when I was at the hotel the following day.
I'm asking you when you spent time with him.
I didn't spend...
You didn't see him at the hospital?
No, he left as soon as he got us there. We got up to the room.
You didn't see him in the hospital is my question.
No, yes, I seen him at the hospital.
How many times did you see him in the hospital?
Just that first day.
So the baby died in February.
Yes.
Between February and September 17th when he called to go fishing, did you see him?
On occasion, out and about, you know, at like local stores, yes.
Other than seeing him at local stores, did you have a cup of coffee with him? Did you have a sandwich with him? Did you go out to a movie with him?
No.
Is that true, sir?
It's true.
So what prompted you to call her up to go fishing on September 17th?
Actually, she called me, and I just had mentioned we were going fishing. And if she wanted to come, you know, it was a beautiful day out. So she said, sure. So went fishing, took her home, that was it.
Go ahead. So continue with your story, madam. Here we are.
We went fishing.
We are now September 17th fishing, and he hasn't given you any money.
And when we went fishing, Robert and I took his mother to Cub Foods so that she could get milk for the house before he dropped me off at my apartment, which is about 3 blocks away from Cub Foods, which is a local grocery store.
Just keep going, please. I don't need a map of the town. Keep moving.
So after we dropped his mother off at Cub Foods, it was him and I in the vehicle, and I brought up the money, and he told me that he had bills himself that he needed, and I proceeded to leave the vehicle. And then at the powwow, I saw him and brought up the money again, and that's actually
So you
why
weren't afraid of him?
No. Not when he's not drinking.
No, you weren't afraid of him.
No, I'm not scared of him unless...
Why in the world, some 2 years later, are you suing him now for assault?
I just think that he owes me the money. I was emotionally distraught from the loss of my daughter.
I want to know why you didn't sue him before you went fishing with him.
I didn't want to go through the court proceedings.
Well, what prompted you now to go through a court proceeding to sue him for a punch that happened 2 years ago?
The fact that he won't pay for our daughter's funeral expenses.
Did he ever tell you that he wasn't sure that the baby was his?
No, he never told me that. And if he didn't think that the baby was his, why would he go up to the cities and sit with her?
I don't know. I'm going to find out. Tell me what happened on November 20th, Mr. Jones.
Okay, I had broken up with her earlier that day because she was real emotional, and she was kind of abusive towards me. You know, she would hit me in my chest or whatever. Kind of, she did it like she knew because I wouldn't hit her, and she knew that, you know, I'm not a violent person. I never hit a female ever in my life, and I broke up with her earlier that day.
Well, tell me about breaking up with her earlier that day.
I was actually going to play ball with my friends, which I always did, and she kind of like got emotional and started, you know, kind of like crying.
No,
she cried a lot.
Kind of like, if you remembered what she said, if you remember as closely to what happened, please, I would
Well, we
like
weren't
to...
getting along before this either, so on that day, I told her that it was over.
Is that right, madam?
No.
Before he went out to the bar that night, because clearly you had to unlock the door because you would lock the door, so clearly he wasn't living with you at that moment. Did he discuss with you earlier in the day on November 20th that he was not happy with the relationship?
No, he had never once tried to or attempted to tell me that he was not happy in our relationship.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, and so I called her and told her that I was going to come get my things.
What time?
This was at like about 2:30.
In the morning?
In the morning.
You crazy? Why would you call at 2:30 in the morning to say you were getting your things?
The bar was like right by her place.
So you had been in the bar, Mr. Jones? Yeah.
And I wasn't all like how she made it out to be.
I don't care whether you were all that. This is not an appropriate thing to do. To go 2:30 in the morning, to go while you're slightly inebriated, to get behind the wheel of a car and go anywhere, to settle anything.
Yep.
You're supposed to wait until the morning.
Okay, so I went and grabbed my, tried to grab my things. I told her that, you know, I just came to get my things and that it was over, and she kind of got mad because she didn't want to never break it off anyways. And prior to this, she had injured herself twice at work to get my attention. She would, oh, I'm at the emergency room, come down. And she, according to her, was in a car accident that rolled or whatever. This is all her stories, and I never had proof of anything, so.
How many times did you go to the emergency room with her prior to November 20th?
Just the day this kid was born. But after she had gotten pregnant, she told me that, like, just like weeks after I found out, she said that we got into an argument. She said she's early enough in her pregnancy where she can say somebody else is the father. And I said, well, how do I know that's not what you're doing to me? And I tried going to her first doctor's appointment, and she left me sitting out in the lobby.
Okay, got it. Did you ever tell her that you and your mother could save up $200 until August?
Yes, I did.
And that you would give her $200?
Yeah, I said that basically so she would just, you know,
I don't care why you said it.
Yeah.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
Now, let's get back to November 20th. You said you were coming to pick up your things 2:30 in the morning.
Yep.
2:30 in the morning you got there, and?
She opened the door and she didn't want me in. And I wasn't going to barge in because that's not how I am.
Fine, so?
So she basically hit me in my eye because I told her I wanted my things and it was over. And she hit me in my eye, closed the door, looked out the window, and I said, that's fine. That's the last time you'll ever hit me. And I walked all, her sister actually dropped them off at my work.
Is what you're telling me that she never got into your car?
She never did.
All right, I'd like to see the police report, please.
Yes, and I have pictures.
I'd like to see the police report, please.
If I could say something, too, there was never even a police weren't even there.
Sir, you pled guilty to 5th-degree assault, according to the plaintiff.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so? All right, so you told the police that he doesn't live with you. That's what you told the police.
I told the police that he was staying at his mother's house.
You told the police that you do not live together and that he stays on and off, but he lives with his mother. Who are you?
Robert Armando's mother.
Stand up, please. Your last name is?
Jones.
Miss Jones, you told the police when they came to your house on November the 20th to go downstairs and get your son. Is that right?
Right.
You told him to go downstairs and get your son because he came home drunk.
Right.
And he was passed out on the couch.
Right.
Right. And you, sir, when you were questioned by the police, you were so drunk that you denied even being over at your girlfriend's house.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, Mr. Jones, there is absolutely no indication here, nor, I assume, do you have any medical testimony that would indicate a correlation between your baby's death 2 months after you got this black eye, because that's what it was, and the baby's illness.
No.
No. So what you're suing him for is for the simple assault of giving you a black eye and the $200 he promised you for the baby's headstone. He's not responsible with regard to any of the other baby's expenses because there is no indication that this is in fact his child. In order to do that, you either have to be married, which you are not, or you have to have a blood test, which would establish that he's the father. Then he would be responsible for half of any unrecovered expenses for the child. Since you don't have that, the only thing that you have to sue him on is his agreement that he would pay you $200 towards the child's headstone, which was really gratuitous, but he promised he would. You relied on that. That you have to pay, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Since there is no correlation between the injury to your eye and what subsequently happened to the baby, I have to examine the circumstances surrounding what happened on that day. There's no question in my mind that he was drunk, that he has no recollection of what happened that day, that he's making it up as he's going along, because he even denied to the police that he was there that day. Even your mother was disgusted with you, sir. Is that a fair statement, Miss Jones?
Right.
Okay. Now, you pled guilty to assaulting her, sir.
Yes, I did.
And you received probation?
Nope, I just got a $500 fine.
No, he was placed on probation for 1 year.
Sir, you better start remembering things that happened to you.
I never was. I was supposed to get a probation officer. I never did.
I don't care whether you were supposed to, whether they never followed through and gave you a probation officer. Maybe you forgot. But if you were supposed to get a probation officer, it wasn't because they were giving you a probation officer for your birthday. They were giving you a probation officer because you were on probation. You have to learn, Mr. Jones, that there are consequences. However, Ms. Johnson, you don't get any awards for being the brightest bulb in the pack. When you're 5 months pregnant and your boyfriend calls 3 o'clock in the morning and says, I'm at a bar and I'm coming over, you lock your door and you keep it closed. You don't go outside to try to figure out how to get the lights off and disconnect his battery.
Yeah.
And you don't punch him in the face. But he started the problem by coming over there in the first place, which was really very stupid. And that, Mr. Jones, is going to cost you $500. So I'm issuing a judgment in the amount of $700, $200 for the baby's headstone and $500 for this 2-year-old assault. Thank you very much. That's all.
Maria Prieto claims her son's former friend, James Alfter, started a fire in her home while trying to grow marijuana.
Ms. Prieto, you rented a house to the defendant.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that he is responsible for a fire in your home that resulted in damage. Some of the damage was covered by insurance, but a great deal of it was not covered by insurance, and you want him to pay the balance.
That's correct.
Your out-of-pocket expenses. Mr. Alfter? Is that the way you pronounce your name?
Yes, ma'am.
You look petrified. Are you scared of me?
No.
You should be.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mr. Alfter says that your homeowner's insurance should have covered whatever losses there were. He wasn't doing anything wrong, and it was just an accident. That's your defense.
Yes.
Your Honor, I disagree.
Just. How old are you, sir?
20.
When did you move out of your home?
I've been on my own since I was about 18.
And how have you been taking care of yourself?
I work.
For whom?
Family business.
What kind of business?
Construction. Do concrete work.
Whose business is it?
It's my grandfather's.
Who else works there?
The crew, my dad, my brothers.
So it's a big business?
Yeah.
It's a lucrative business?
Yeah.
How much? Yes, try yes.
Yes.
How much do you get paid?
$30 an hour.
And you work 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
40-hour weeks.
So you've got money in the bank?
I'm all right.
What?
Said I'm all right. Yes.
You have a car?
Yes.
Shape? Do you work out?
Yes.
You work out at home or in a gym?
The gym.
You have a gym membership?
Yes.
I ask you all these questions, sir, because I'm trying to find out a little bit about you. Because this complaint says, Mr. Alfter, that the fire that started in Miss Prieto's house, on what date?
September the 12th.
On what date did he move into the house?
He moved in July 1st.
Was started because in your bedroom, right?
In master bedroom, correct.
People usually sleep in the master bedroom, right?
Yes.
How many bedrooms were there in the house?
5.
How many people were living in the house?
Just 2.
You and who else?
Me and my roommate.
Male or female?
Male.
So that those were 2 bedrooms. You don't spend the night with your roommate, right? You each have your own bedroom, right?
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
But I guess you didn't want you or your roommate to get the master bedrooms because then it would be unequal, so that you each stayed in other bedrooms.
Yes.
And you were using your master bedroom to grow marijuana. You actually hadn't brought in the plants yet, according to the complaint and the answer, but it was all set up with a whole bunch of lights, right?
Yes, there's equipment.
I mean, you weren't planning on shooting a film in there, were you?
No.
You were going to grow marijuana.
Yes.
What were you going to do with it when you grew it?
Well, I have anxiety, and I was going to try to get my card, cannabis card.
You have anxiety?
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Your parents are alive?
Yes.
Did they know you were coming here today?
Yes.
Did they know that 10 million people were going to be watching you today?
Yes.
Did they offer you any warning, sir?
Yes.
And I know that it's not relevant to the case, but I, because I am a mother, would like to know what your parents said to you.
They told me I better learn my lesson.
Both of them?
Yes.
Sounds like my kind of people. Who do you expect to pay for these damages that weren't covered by Miss Prieto's insurance as a result of your lunacy in trying to start a marijuana farm in her house?
Myself.
Right. So why didn't you just pay her, sir? Why did you force her to come here? You know, I mean, I know that she looks lovely and she appears to be a very nice lady, but why didn't you just say, I'm really sorry, I acted like an idiot, I'm 20 years old, I'm not fully grown up yet. You know, just help me out here. It'll never happen again. I'm going to cut my hair so I can see. You know, all of those things.
The sum, that amount that she wanted was pretty high. I thought the insurance would have covered it, but I was going to pay the deductible.
Yeah, but the insurance company didn't, for instance, pay for all the landscaping around the house that was singed.
But when I moved in the house, the land or the landscaping wasn't too caught up.
May not have been too caught up. What about the fact that she didn't have the use of her house for a while?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, I know, that's my fault.
So who should pay for that?
Myself.
Yes, ma'am. Can I see the bills, please?
Sure. And I have pictures also.
Should have listened to your parents, Mr. Alfter. Father's a pretty tough guy?
Yeah.
Are you using your real name today, sir?
Yes.
Is your father's last name the same as yours?
Yes.
Look what you did to her house. Bird, look what he did to her house. You planned on smoking an awful lot of weed, sir, for your anxiety. Why don't you go to a therapist?
I don't know.
Well, I would try a therapist before I would start farming again. Who helped you with all this, sir?
I did it myself.
What about your roommate?
No, well, he helped a little bit.
Was he going to be your partner?
No.
What does he do for a living?
He works.
For whom?
He does construction, too.
For your father?
No. No.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Please.
Okay, as far as all that equipment he purchased, and it was worth over supposedly $6,000, and he didn't have money to pay the rent. So he had money to go out there and buy all that, plus, you know, start his little lab thing. But on the other hand, he's making $30 an hour, and he could have just stepped up to the plate and said, I'm going to pay you. Even payments. I said, can you make payments? And he's like, yeah, I will. Never followed through.
He's very anxious because he's not smart. And unless he gets smarter, he's going to remain anxious. Mm-hmm. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Say sorry.
Sorry.
Not to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, that's all.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 96 on the calendar in the matter of Cheatham versus Oldenkamp, Celine.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me first say that when you prepare papers for court, which are a complaint and an answer, and in your case a countersuit, you're supposed to prepare them so that the judge, in reading over a file, can understand the nature of your lawsuit. And quite frankly, sir, I don't understand what you're suing for. something about a computer, something about slander. I have no idea how this problem started. And quite frankly, I don't understand your countersuit either. So, go ahead, Mr. Cheatham.
Now, there are 3 separate cases, as you know. The first case is that I had to move out of my apartment because it had gotten flooded. And Roy was coming over and using the computer every day because we were working on a play together.
So you were writing together?
No, we were working together.
What
on
does
the
that
play.
mean?
He was doing the publicity, and at the time I had a client that was doing the play.
What do you mean you had a client that was doing the play?
I had a client who was the star of the show, of the Dorothy Dandridge show. So he was, and so he didn't have a computer, so he was coming over all the time to use a computer.
So you're in the publicity business?
I was helping him out, yes, working for him at his place of business. And
Which was his apartment?
His apartment, right.
That got flooded?
I never heard anything about getting flooded or saw any evidence of it.
Go ahead.
So, John suggested, John is my housemate, decided that we should leave the computer with Roy while we were out of the apartment and they were repairing it.
Okay.
That's the
Apartment
first
got
part
flooded.
of the case.
You had your computer. You left it with him.
Yes.
Okay. Who bought this computer?
Me.
Do you have his computer?
I have the computer he gave me as partial payment for back wages due for work I did at his address, which is also his business, which I worked at for a year and a half, helping him not just do one play, but his entire business. And I have files and evidence of the things I did, some of the things that I did while I was there.
Well, so you say he handed this computer over to you as partial payment for the work.
Yes, he said that he was in the process of brokering a deal to sell a painting by Goya, the artist, that his commission, he was selling it to a Hungarian count, and his commission would be at least $350,000.
Did you tell him that?
Your Honor, I can't talk about that case. That case is being in litigation as we speak.
Well,
yes.
you have to talk about it, sir.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you why. Because
did not
he
tell
says that you gave him this computer, but that you were working on a big deal and that hopefully you were going to get your computer back. Is that right?
No, he was going to pay me more money additionally. The computer was partial payment for monies due. And he came over to my house, set it up, and said he'd have more money for me when this went through this brokering deal, which I don't know anything about how it happened after that.
Had you owed him any money, sir?
No. Not
He was
for
doing
work.
Well, how was he being compensated for doing the publicity?
He was working for the show. He was not working for me. He was working for J.H. Doyle Production, and I have the witness to that effect.
This witness?
This witness.
Would you stand up, please?
Certainly.
Who are you?
I'm Sloan Robinson. And
What do you
I was
do?
the actress that was doing the play Yesterday Came Too Soon, the Dorothy Dandridge story. And I know that at that time, Roy came on to our production as a publicist. And I do know that they were working together on that production.
That's one thing I did.
The checks for that were supposed to come through Clarence to Roy.
I never got paid for that either.
And
Just a second. One thing.
From my knowledge, Mr. Cheatham was not responsible for paying Roy's fee.
He's my agent.
She was the actress. She would have no knowledge.
He's my agent.
The company was supposed to be paying his fee.
How do you know that?
That's
Where is the
what I
person
was
from?
told.
You can't tell me what you were told.
Okay.
Sit down.
Okay.
Just a second. Were you doing any other work for him other than on this particular Dorothy Dandridge story?
Yes, ma'am.
play?
That play was only 3 months long in its entire gestation to the end of that play. I worked for Clarence for a long time, for I'd say over a year and a half, doing many other projects.
Well, why did you work for him for nothing, sir?
Well, I didn't. He paid me twice out of the amount I gave him. I have some invoices I'd given him also. And both times that he paid me, he paid one time I came to him and told him I wanted some money. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay an electric bill for you. How's that? So he paid the electric bill. The check bounced, of course. And then he did another payment with another fraudulent check that bounced.
I knew.
Just a
he
second.
really hasn't paid
So
me.
the answer is, all this year and a half, he didn't pay you.
Well, that's the Hollywood side of it. He is also my agent. So as my agent, he constantly would tell me, well, Roy, as soon as these deals break, I'll have the money for you. He's a very smooth talker. It's
Just
what he
a second.
does.
So you were working for him, but he was also your agent and supposedly working for you.
Yes.
He needed money because Clarence never got him any work as a writer. So Clarence said, well, work for me as well while we're trying to get all this done.
Plus, I had a full-time job all this time.
How do
This
you
was just
expect?
additional
Are you
work.
a writer, sir?
No, I'm not a writer.
Well, what do you do?
I manage some writers and I arrange funds for various film projects. And I was
When
not,
did you give him this computer to keep for you?
It was in March or April or something like that. I don't remember. But I know that what had happened, as I said, the apartment flooded. We had to leave the apartment until they fixed it. And I didn't want to put it in storage. He was working on the play. So therefore, I was trying to be a decent person and just let him keep it. But he said that John owed him money, and that I owed him money. He has never given me any invoices. I've not ever paid. He wasn't working for me. He had a full-time job. How could he work for me?
He has copies of
I
the
work
invoices.
all day.
Clarence, I work for you weekends
You have
and
not
after
worked
work
for
all the
me.
time. I was at your house burning the midnight oil.
This accordion file on the floor is a partial bit of the work Roy's
Who are
done
you?
for him.
Just a second. Who are you?
I'm his sister, and we
what do
live
you have?
together.
Are you in business?
He's suing
He's
Giselle.
suing me for slander.
That's the one
No,
who
just a second.
slandered.
You're a sister. Are you in business with him?
I help him out occasionally, but I'm not technically in business with him, no.
This is getting very complicated. How much time do I have this afternoon?
Not much.
Do you, you're Mr. Olden?
Olden Camp, yes, ma'am.
Olden Camp. You have a lot of businesses?
I work full-time job in the daytime. And then
What
I
do you
help
do?
them out. In the daytime, I work administrative services at a company in the Valley. That means we help do supply and for an entire building of 200 people.
And you live alone, sir?
I live with Giselle.
We're roommates.
Right.
Fine. Do you have your own computer?
I have my own laptop computer, yes.
Fine. Give him back his computer. That's one. Give him back his computer. That's the way he makes a living. You don't have another computer, do you?
No, I don't.
His laptop is
just a sec.
mine as well.
What?
We both use the laptop.
Good. You can only use it one lap at a time. His computer goes back there. Now, what's next?
The next is that Giselle,
that's her,
call Sloan, who I was working with, who's a business associate, and she will testify. And on the message, Sloan had said, Clarence, you have to listen to this message. I said, I really don't want to listen to it. It wasn't interesting. So she had to finally talk me into listening to it. And I quote exactly to you what Giselle said is the most heinous of things that you could ever accuse a human being of. She said, and I'll give you a copy of it, I just want to warn you about Clarence. He had the police come here about 1 o'clock this morning, which is true. I don't know what's wrong with him. He has turned his anger at me and Roy for some reason. You know he was arrested for child molestation last month. He has just lost it. I just want to tell you to watch out for him. Let's have lunch.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I am not in fear of this man.
Why are you not in fear of this drunken guy who gets on the pipe? This guy is dangerous.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Clarence Cheatham, a Hollywood agent, says his former client, Roy Oldenkamp, did not return his computer, and that Roy's sister, Giselle Celine, slandered him.
Did you leave that message on the machine?
Yes, I did.
Would you tell me first why, and then I'd like you to tell me what proof you have that Mr. Cheatham was in fact arrested on a charge of child molestation?
I called and left that message because Sloan, in addition to being a client of Clarence's, is a friend of mine. She's been to my house, we're friends, and I look out for my girlfriends. I'm afraid of this man now, and I wanted her
Giselle,
I'm sorry.
What now? That answers the why. Right. Now let's go to the proof. What proof do you have
Clarence
that this man was in fact arrested for anything?
Okay. Clarence called my brother at my home.
This brother?
Yes, he called us to bail him out of jail that night.
She was at the house at the same time when he called.
This is my witness who was also there. They were home working. So Roy put it on speakerphone so he could continue working while Clarence was blethering away. And this is the witness that also heard the conversation of Clarence saying, can you bail me out? I've been picked up on child molestation charges.
Tell me your name, sir.
My name is James Sheindlin.
James?
James Sheindlin.
Mr. Sheindlin.
Yes.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Okay, I manage a rock and roll band, and Roy is stepping up as my publicist. And we do a lot of late evenings. And,
so you were at home in the evening.
I was at his home.
Their home.
Right.
And what happened?
And he got a phone call, and Roy always puts the call on speakerphone.
You mean he picks it up on speakerphone?
I just push speaker.
Push.
You push speakerphone.
So he doesn't have to stop what he's
saying.
saying.
And what did you hear, sir?
I heard that he was calling and asking for help to get out of jail. He said, I need help getting out here. Is there any way you can possibly get me out?
Okay. Mr. Cheatham.
Yes.
Were you, in fact, arrested
Not for child molestation.
That's not what I asked you, sir.
I'll tell you what I-
Listen to me.
Was I
I'm
arrested?
asking you a question.
Was
Were
I
you in
arrested?
fact arrested?
Yes, nobody bailed me out.
Mr. Cheatham, you were in fact arrested?
Yes.
When?
I have April or February or March, something like that. I don't even remember.
Did you in fact call Mr. Oldenkamp?
I didn't. Perhaps John called him. I don't remember calling him.
But you could have.
But I could have.
And you could have called him and asked him to come and bail you out.
You don't bail out child molesters.
Oh, you'd be surprised, sir. You'd be surprised. Did you call and ask them to help you?
No. John is my witness to that. No one. I asked no one because I didn't want anyone to even know that I was there. I was arrested on a $250 charge for disorderly conduct, and hey, you spend one night in jail and you're out.
Just let me ask you this question, sir. Was the original charge disorderly conduct?
That was the original charge.
No, the original charge was child molestation.
Just a second.
Who did I molest?
Mr.
A Hollywood producer's daughter.
Shh, Mr. Oldenkamp.
A 25-year-old
Mr.
woman.
Hey. Tell me the circumstances surrounding your arrest, sir.
The circumstances surrounding my arrest, I went to help a friend move. She said her car wouldn't start. I was standing there to call AAA. The next thing I know, all these white policemen were up on me. There were 10 of them. Because somebody had called and said that we were about to rob, John and I were about to rob them. So, they've called a cab, put us in a cab, and then this cab driver said, well, you guys are probably taking us somewhere to rob me. I just laughed, you know. So and he drove us back, left us at the garage, and as soon as I walked out, they didn't touch John. They arrested me for disturbing the peace, disorderly conduct. I have no idea. I was there for one night. It was a $250 fine that every man in that jailhouse laughed at me. You can't get $250. Every man, I'm in there with dope dealers, pushers, murderers, and everything. And here it is that they're laughing at me. I was the butt of their jokes because I couldn't come up with $250 to get out of jail. It was a $250 fine. You will not, you know, so therefore, never for child molestation. A 25-year-old, you don't molest a 25-year-old.
What's a 25-year-old? I
He
don't know
said
who the 25-year-old
he said a Hollywood
is.
producer's daughter. Yeah, that's what he said. He said
Clarence
it was a
told me-
Hollywood
when
producer's
Clarence told
daughter.
me on the phone-
25 years old.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What happens? This is the payback that I get. I mean, I hope his bad karma is ending here. I hope people in Hollywood will be warned.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Hollywood agent Clarence Cheatham is suing Joselle Celine for slander.
The true text of the conversation as he called us was that, Roy, I'm in jail. I've been arrested. I think he said Van Nuys Police Department. He says, you won't believe it. I was arrested for child molestation. I was drunk. I was at a producer's house. I accidentally grabbed her daughter. Of course, he'd say accidentally. She had a cell phone in her hand, ran in the bathroom, locked the door, and called 911. They came and arrested me and took me out of the building. This, I'm just
Why don't you ask
This
John?
is what the phone conversation was.
Why don't you ask John?
First of all, Mr. Cheatham, how many times have you been arrested in your life?
One. I was shocked. I was shocked to be arrested that time.
Who are you?
My name is John Taylor. We sit together, and I mean the whole child molesting thing is not.
Well, just a minute. Were you there when he made the phone call to the defendant?
No.
Okay, then you can sit down.
But he was there when I was arrested. He knows why I was arrested.
Just a second.
Did I call Roy? That's the issue
No,
here.
you don't know whether he called him or not.
I couldn't call anybody out of the courthouse because
No,
I didn't know
sir,
how to use the
Mr.
phone.
Cheatham, I want to tell you something. I believe, sir, that you called him. There's no question in my mind that I believe that you called him.
I called him.
I did not call Roy. I don't remember calling him. Perhaps John
No,
might
you
have
don't. You
called
may
him.
not remember calling him, but he knows your voice, sir, as opposed to this gentleman's voice.
Well, I don't think he's telling the truth. They're pulling at straws. They're pulling at straws. Giselle lied and said I was a child molester. That's the issue here. That she slandered me to a business colleague of mine. That is what we have. That's what we have. Has nothing to do with that. This is a business client of mine, and you know it.
Just a second. Well, let me ask you this question, madam. Did you believe the fact that he was a child molester?
No, I did not.
Good. Then we don't have a problem.
There you go.
Because in order for you to prove damages, sir, if she published this
She's no
information...
longer working with me.
Listen to me.
She's no longer working with me as a client, so therefore I've lost income.
Well, listen.
Okay.
Mr. Cheatham.
Judy, can I just say something?
Mr. Cheatham. There are two things. I have to make a judgment as to whether the phone call was made and whether I believe the phone call was made. I believe the phone call was made. I believe the phone call was made by you, Mr. Cheatham. I don't know whether you were drinking that night or not. This is the person with whom you reside. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So I believe the phone call was made. I believe this person, that he overheard that phone conversation, at least part of it. I don't know why, madam, you felt it necessary to transmit that information to anybody else. There must have been some bad blood, but clearly you didn't believe it, correct?
No, we're not
Did you
friends.
believe?
She did that to malign him because I'm his client.
Did you believe that it was true?
No, I did not.
Did you believe that he had been arrested?
Apparently not. That I had no question. I don't know. That's possible.
That's
but
possible.
as far as him being a child molester, no.
Okay, so you didn't believe it?
No.
Okay, so did you tell anybody else that he was a child molester?
No.
Or that you thought he was arrested for child molestation?
Absolutely.
Did you tell anybody else that?
No.
Okay, so she didn't believe it, so that takes care of that. All right, now I'm going to get to your counterclaim.
I've not been served with such.
You were never served with a counterclaim?
I was never served
You were
with
served by Dan West 2 weeks ago.
I have not ever been served with a cross-complaint. Why would I stand here and lie about that?
Well, I don't know, Clarence. That
Where
sums up the
where
last
would he
half
have
hour.
served me 2 weeks ago?
He served you 2 weeks ago at your abode, wherever
Your
you
Honor,
live.
Well, let me...
I do
just
not
one
have
second.
a counterclaim
Just one
against
second.
me.
I'm
I
gonna
cannot
check
be
the-
sued for something that
Listen
I
to
don't
me.
know about.
Listen to me. I'm going to go back and check our court records and see whether or not we are in receipt of a filed counterclaim with proof of service.
Perhaps
Do you
you
understand?
are, but I'm not. And perhaps you are, I'm not. I don't know anything about a countercomplaint because I certainly would have answered it.
Well, Mr. Cheatham, you can either finish this case in court today.
I want to finish it today.
Then you want to let me see what this cross complaint is about?
Sure.
Okay. Let me see if I have the papers. Just wait here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's a nut. I can't believe that he started this whole ball rolling in the first place. The man is simply a nut.
Order. Quiet, please.
Mr. Roldenkamp,
Yes, ma'am.
the plaintiff could not have been served 2 weeks ago with your counterclaim,
What?
sir, because you only filed your counterclaim 5 days ago.
It was...
So you can't have been served, sir, with your counterclaim before you filed it. Your countersuit is dismissed without prejudice. You can refile it if you wish and serve him.
that's fine.
And within 48 hours, the computer is to be returned to him.
I don't want him near me to pick up that computer. Can
Fine,
I have someone pick it up?
We will make arrangements for the computer to be picked up.
Thank you. I fear for my safety with him.
You certainly should. We're done.
Step out the back to your right.
Shame on you, Sloan.
Out the back to your right, please.
On the next Judge Judy.
Why are you not in fear of this drunken guy who gets on the pipe? This guy is dangerous. You need to stay away from him.
That is defamation of character.
It's reality, darling. It's reality. All that I did for you. This is your payback.
That's what you
That's
should
your
be ashamed of,
payback.
because you're standing there lying and you're implicating me
Your
in
karma,
this.
your karma is
And I
just
don't
in
have
the doghouse.
anything to do with it. All
Karma
I did
is
was
about
repeat
money.
what you-
So, once again, what can I say? I was a fool, but I just hope others will learn and be warned that there are types like this that prey on people that come to Hollywood, plan on making a career out here, and then get suckered in, abused, and used. It's a terrible thing.
Year-old Jennifer Trombley is suing her husband, Russell Trombley, claiming he physically abused her throughout their marriage. Mr. Trombley's countersuit alleges that his wife has a drug problem and has neglected their daughter.
Order. All rise. Judge, it's number 159 on the calendar in the matter of Trombley versus Trombley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You two folks are married, in the process of getting a divorce. You've been married for 2 years. You have a 2-year-old child, Mrs. Trombley. I have your complaint. You are seeking $5,000 from your husband for emotional stress.
Yes, I am.
Well, I'd like you to tell me about it. You have a countersuit. I'll hear that in a minute. Go ahead.
Well, I'm really suing because he broke into my best friend's house.
I tell you, this has nothing to do with your best friend's house. There's nothing in here in the complaint about
Well, he
your
broke
best
in there
friend's
and
house.
attacked me.
Well, let
That's
me hear
what
about
brought
it.
this complaint.
Let me hear about it. The attacking you is something else. Let me hear about the attacking you.
Once he entered the house, he ran through the house and threw me against the wall and kicked me and then left with our daughter screaming in the living room.
What had precipitated this?
I hadn't come home the night before because
Why not?
Because I was afraid of getting hit. And when I did come home in the morning, he raised his hand to me, and if he hadn't seen my friend, he would have hit me.
That's untrue. There was no threat of violence of her coming home at any point ever. She was with her friend partying late into the night.
He says you do drugs, Mrs. Trombley, and that you depleted the bank account of your family, took checks out, forged checks, ran up bills, forced them into bankruptcy, all because you were doing drugs and staying out, partying with your friends, etc. Any of that true?
Some of it's true.
What's true?
I do have a past history of drug abuse.
We're not talking about past. We're talking about current.
No, I don't.
What makes you think she has a drug problem?
Oh, I have all kinds of ample evidence to prove that she has a drug problem. Just as of July 18th, I got a call from Burbank Police Department who had just arrested a drug dealer, stating that he had my calling card. I have here 12 pages of the calls that this man made with my calling card. Who was given?
Who is this man?
This man's name is nicknamed Morbid.
You know that person?
Yes, I do.
Well, what does he do for a living?
He deals drugs, right, Jen? He deals drugs.
What does he do for a living?
He doesn't really do much for a living.
He deals drugs. And this is Jen's main drug dealer. This is a man that she went to Mexico with.
While you were married?
What? Last month.
Is that right?
Yes.
Terrific.
My wife disappeared for 3 days on the premise that she was going to look for jobs. At 2 p.m., with no hassle, no fighting, we had made love in the morning. At 2 p.m., she said, I'm on my way to go put some applications in. I did not see my wife for 3 days, at which she had taken both sets of our car keys and left me in the care of our daughter. I have a full-time job. I had to take 3 days off from work. On the third day, risking financial ruin and losing my job, I had to take my 2-year-old daughter to work with me. No calls from my wife.
Does that sound familiar to you, Miss Trombley?
Yes, that's all true. And it was all because I was afraid to come home because he was hitting me.
Afraid to come home, so she takes a vacation with a drug dealer to Tijuana, Mexico.
Mr. Trombley,
Order.
let me tell you this, sir. Let me tell you this. I read your answer to her complaint. Her complaint is nonsense. I don't know whether you hit her when you got into the house.
I'll explain to you exactly the events preceding
Your
that
Honor,
incident.
Your Honor, we have 2 separate police reports for domestic violence.
We have
and a
one
restraining order
police
that was
report.
put on against him.
Was there
for
ever a
my
trial
protection.
on that restraining order?
Yes, there was.
And what happened to it?
And what happened to it?
Today, that case was settled and dropped. Plead out.
What do you mean, settle, drop, plead out? What does that mean?
I pleaded no contest to 1 count of battery.
Does that have to do with this incident? That
It has to do with the incident where I pushed my wife away from a front door for not taking our personal life into a hallway.
Was that at her friend's house? Just
Yes.
a second.
Yes.
This is the incident at the friend's house.
Yes, let me...
Let me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll ask you to fill in so that there is some semblance here. According to your answer, she had gone over to her friend Lori's house, right? And this was after she had disappeared for a few days.
No, that's...
She had already disappeared. There were periods of time, according to your answer, sir, that she had left you in care to care for your daughter.
Yes.
And you were afraid that when she went to Lori's house and didn't come home right away, that she was going to do it again.
Well, let me explain a little bit earlier in the evening. It was that very morning that I was late for work. My wife came home at 6:30, where I would have had to have left at 10 of 6 to make it to work. She knows this. We've had many, many fights about it. It's when she showed up with Lori, I did go like this in anger, not to hit her, but just as a show. I'm this angry. How could you do this to me again? That very night, when I came home from work, Lori and Jen and Aubrey were there in the house. They said, we're going to take Aubrey out and get some shoes. They left. They came back at, At 7:30 p.m. while I was watching TV, my daughter comes through the front door crying. But my wife did not come through the door. I opened up the front door and my wife was at the bottom of the stairs and says to me, "I'm going to the car for a minute." 5 minutes later, she didn't come back from the car and the car was gone. It's at that time that I assumed she probably went back over to Lori's. I drove over there with my daughter and that's where she was. I found that that was kind of peculiar.
Screaming your head off.
I wasn't
Mr.
screaming at
Trumley,
anything.
Mr. Trumley.
Yes. May I continue?
No. Because while I can smell a drug problem from at least 15 feet away, and she has a drug problem.
Yes, that's true.
Based upon my assessment of her demeanor and based upon the things that she has said to me so far, I have some trouble with your response. And let me tell you why, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm just a hardworking guy. I have no record. I've never been expelled from school. I'm nothing but a decent guy that was raised the right way.
And later today,
you came in with your girlfriend, Christina, who now lives with you.
I'm going to have him live with me?
Who is your lover? Admit it, okay?
Okay.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Russell Trombley denies his wife Jennifer's allegations of abuse and claims she's guilty of neglecting their daughter.
You have a 2-year-old daughter. You say you know your wife has a current drug problem.
Yes.
If your wife has a current drug problem, I don't care what you have to do, you make sure that your wife is never left in charge of your child. You didn't do that. What you wanted her to do was to be around to take care of your daughter. Just a second. And I don't care if you have to get a babysitter. I don't care if you have to quit your job. I don't care what you have to do. You do not leave a drug user in charge of a 2-year-old baby, and I don't care if the drug user is your wife. Number one. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Number two. According to your answer, sir, you went over to the house, to this Lori's house, because you didn't want to be in the position again of having to look for somebody to take care of your daughter when you had to go to work the next morning and you had an early morning call. Is that right?
Yes. We've exhausted all of our daycare issues. My wife left our daycare with a $300 bill that we owed them.
Sir.
We had no one else. We have no relatives here.
So let me tell you this. There are many people, unfortunately, in your position whose mate, whether it be a husband or a wife, has a drug addiction problem. You're supposed to try to be supportive of each other if you can, but at that point, there is only one innocent. And that innocent is a child, especially a 2-year-old child that cannot protect herself. So at that point, you can't worry about her anymore. She's got a drug problem and hangs around with Mork or whatever his name is, Dork. Those are the kind of people that you hang around with if you've got a drug problem.
That's all she hangs out with.
Drug dealers.
All drug dealers. That's everybody she knows.
Well, then, sir, if you allow your daughter to hang around with her and to hang around with drug dealers, then you are as guilty of neglect as she is. Do you understand me? In my eyes.
With all due respect, Judge, these are events that have only come to my knowledge within the last couple of months. All of these things have been hidden and lied about.
Sir, during that time, during that couple of month period, you still left your daughter in your wife's care.
But I was only doing that on the premise that she was over at her friend's house. I didn't know that there was drugs involved at that night.
You can't have it both ways. We understand each other. You cannot have it both ways.
There was not at any point that I felt my daughter was in danger from my wife.
I'm telling you that it's not true. What I'm telling you is, if you are mated to a drug user who cavorts with other drug users and abusers and dealers, you are a neglectful parent if you leave a 2-year-old child with her.
I was doing everything I could.
All right. So, let me get to your cross-complaint because I'm going to take care of this nonsense right away. You say that she spent a lot of your family money?
She spent all of our money.
Good. That's what happens. It's a very good idea for you to get out of this marriage, to take charge of your daughter, and to start building a life with her, if that's what you think that you can do. Do you understand?
Yeah, that's everything I'm seeking and aiming for. But
very good.
These are the events that handle our lives every day, though. While I'm trying to litigate this, I am being forced to move out of California, forced to give up my dreams, forced to give up my career.
That's very sad. You made a mistake. That's what happens when people make a mistake.
I made a grand mistake, and my plea...
That's what happens when you make a mistake.
I understand that.
Good.
But understand, Judge, that I have pleaded and begged my wife to get drug counseling, to stop fraternizing with these people.
This case is dismissed. The counterclaim is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right.
I want to get as far away from this woman as I can. I believe she's nothing but pure evil and will not help herself. I don't think there's any saving her.
And now the next case.
Parties on Silvas versus Boga. Step forward.
70-year-old Frank Silvas is suing 33-year-old Christina Boger, a woman he says was his lover and bride-to-be. According to Frank, when their plans to move in together fell through, Christina kept his furniture. But Christina says she and Frank were never boyfriend and girlfriend, and the furniture was a gift.
Mr. Silvas, according to your papers, sir, you are a recent widower.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were married to your wife for 45 years?
No, 41.
41 years. Shortly after her death, you met the defendant.
Right, but 18 months after.
And she was selling some sort of electrical
Well, the
bit?
night before I met her, somebody called the house was to make an appointment to sell mattresses. And I told the gentleman, says, I'm not going to buy one. He said, well, we got a new sales person. He didn't tell me it was a male or a female, you know.
Cut to the chase.
Okay.
She came to sell you a new mattress.
Right.
And according to your complaint, sold you a lot more.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I slept with her about three or four different times. In fact, we went to Laughlin. First time we went to Laughlin.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 70-year-old Frank Silvas is suing 33-year-old Christina Boger because he claims she kept his furniture when their romance ended.
Over the course of several months,
Almost a year.
you gave her a lot of money.
Right.
According to your papers, gave her loans of over $30,000.
Right.
But you know that you can't get that here.
Right.
What you're suing for here is a return of your furniture.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me how she came to have your furniture in her possession.
Okay, when her roommate moved out, I was supposed to, move in, see? So, I says, well, we'll take my furniture up there to sell my house. Then she kept putting the dates off,
What dates?
That I was supposed to move in. But prior to that, Your Honor, she said she would marry me.
Did you ask her to marry you?
Yes, and she kept putting that off.
Okay. So you asked her to marry you. When did you ask her to marry you?
Before the first of the year, first time.
And what did she say?
She says, I don't know you that good, let's wait a while.
So what happened? The romance is clearly over.
Well, I got evidence right here that really turned me off. She came into my house, took two blank checks and forged them. One for $1,000, one for $350. Then she came back into the house and grabbed those two checks and burned them up. That's what she told me. She burned them. But I got copies from the bank. I got the police report on each one.
When do you say she did this?
I didn't find out about it till May, actually, Your Honor, when I got my bank statements.
How come he gave you this money?
Well,
I assume you're going to tell me he gave you the money.
Yes, he plays a victim well. He was always there to be very helpful to me, and was there to volunteer anytime I needed something. We started up a business together. This money that he's talking about that he lent to me was based on this business we started together, and any money that he gave me was to help me get this business up and going, and he was, in return, got a percentage of this business.
Just a second. Did he get anything in return?
Yes, when he was doing his job.
Just a minute. What did he get in return?
He got a percentage of the business, which was 10%.
How much does that translate to in cash?
About $600–700. in cash.
So he invested thousands and he got $600-700.
Let me explain something though. He stopped doing the business, and ultimately the business fell. It's not even in existence now because he wouldn't give me the information so I can continue to run this business. He kept it.
He gave you a lot of money, madam. I have checks here. A lot of money.
Okay.
A lot.
Your Honor, he's 69 years old. I'm 30. This man's got 45 years on me. He decides to give me money or do what he decides to do. You think he'd have... It's all been his choice. It's all been his choice from the beginning to do these things. Frank did everything.
Did you at any time discuss with him getting married?
No, he discussed it with me.
When for the first time?
He asked me to marry him so many times I couldn't tell you. It was literally the first time 60 days after I knew him was the first time he asked me to marry him.
And what did you say to him?
I said, no, I don't know you well enough. And he's a heavy drinker and I have a baby and there's a big age difference. And I told him, I said, no, I think
a big age difference is 40 years. You know, a big age difference is 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. 40 years is a big age difference. Did you ever say to him, no, sir, you're too old and I'm not going to be involved with you romantically?
I never said he was too old. The age difference was a concern, but it was his drinking that was more of a concern to me.
But that didn't stop you from taking money from him.
For the business, we were business partners.
I'm not talking about the business. So far, the business he got a couple $100 from, if I believe you, and he put in thousands according to these checks. And it's not made out to a business. It's made out directly to you, and you cash the checks. It's not made out to a business account. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. But I'm telling you now, don't piddle on my leg and tell me it's raining, madam. I'm too smart for you. Do you understand? Do you understand? If you took money from him because he was prepared to give it to you and you were prepared to take it, that's one thing. He's not suing you for the money. Yet. So don't give me any baloney about business. Business checks, if they're made to a business, they're put in a business name. Your business, I assume, had a name. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the name of the business?
Wilbur Banks and Associates.
So if he was lending money to the business, it would have been business checks, not payable to you.
Okay, when I came to him and discussed certain things with him, he was there to help me. He said, whatever you need, I'm here to help you. I asked him what he wanted in return. He said, just to be close to you, to be your friend. And I said that was fine. He could write me a check, and I could do whatever I wanted with it if he chose to give it to me.
Right, so you used them. Now, let's talk about the furniture.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I want to know if the following things are in your home, madam. Butcher block.
Pardon me?
Show this to her, please. Are those things in your home?
Yes, they are.
Good. Can I have it, please? Court will draft an order that within 3 days of today, all those items will be picked up and returned to Mr. Silvas. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
All of them. And they better be in the same condition that they were when he gave them to you. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor. Excuse, you may step out.
And on the next Judge Judy.
Was
you
in my
used
driveway.
This guy, okay? He was in love
Right.
with you, and you used him.
I used him, right?
Okay?
But he'll never
And
tell
you. Had
guys.
your lover move in
You're right.
with you.
You know what? You're all right.
Whose
This
bed are
report-
you sleeping in, Christina?
This has nothing. This
Okay.
doesn't. My God, you
That's
guys
all I
are.
wanna
You guys
say.
are petty.
I slept over there about three, 4 different times. In fact, we went to Laughlin. First time we went to Laughlin.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. It's case number 232, Your Honor, on the calendar in the matter of Gropman Puff versus Longo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
All right. Miss Longo, it is alleged by both of these plaintiffs that you destroyed their property and locked them out of an apartment that the three of you were sharing. You seem to acknowledge in your answer that you did, in fact, lock them out of the apartment, and you did, in fact, take their property and throw it in a dumpster. Is that right?
Yeah. But they didn't live there. It's my apartment. They didn't give me a dime for rent.
Doesn't
That
make
is
any
my
difference.
apartment.
They were
Okay.
living there with you, and you seem to feel as if you had some right to do that. You want to explain it to me?
Well, Stephanie went to San Francisco behind my back to my boyfriend's house and him and thought that she could still be my friend after that. And I was angry and I called up there and I found out just to talk to Brad. And so I just threw her stuff in the dumpster. Because I was... And she never was my friend. I went out of my way for her. I've done so many things for her. And she goes, my boyfriend.
Are you good? How long did you live there?
I was staying there approximately 2 weeks.
And this is your boyfriend?
Yes, it is.
What property did she destroy?
She threw away most of the clothes I own and several pairs of shoes and a very expensive cellular telephone.
We have a list of...
I do, and I also have several receipts.
My God, I couldn't be so specific about what I had in my house as you are. How do you know that these are things that you had there? 6 pairs of socks? 15 pairs of panties? How do you know that?
I'm sure there were more than 6 pairs of socks. I just estimated 6 pairs of socks. There's probably things that are missing that I can't remember.
You had taken none of your property with you?
I had several things with me. A bag.
We just done 3 loads of laundry, and they were all at her house, not to mention a closet full of stuff hanging up that was inside of her home.
Where were you when all this was going on?
I was in Los Angeles with a friend, and she was in San Diego where we all live. And she was in San Francisco, I was in LA, and she had assumed that since she went to San Francisco without Suzanne, that she had done it maliciously to sleep with her boyfriend, when in all actuality she was heading to Reno and just got too tired on the trip and decided to stay in San Francisco. And they were going to stay at her witness's house, at her brother's house, and they couldn't wake him up, or that he wasn't home, so they decided to stay at this gentleman Brad's house, who she's referring to. They had stayed there 2 weeks previously, all 3 of them, and so they thought, hey, maybe we can stay there, because we were just there 2 weeks ago. Brad said no problem, and they stayed there.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
There was not a closet full of things, and they did not stay with me for 2 weeks straight. They stayed with me for 1 or 2 days at a time, and there was exactly 2 bags of clothes, and that is all.
What about a phone?
Oh,
cellular phone. She said that you...
I never saw a cellular phone. I never saw a cellular phone.
Well, you were in pretty much of a rage.
Yeah, I was.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, then you have to pay for it.
It could have been in their stuff, and I could have, you know, thrown it away. It could have been in the bag already. There was some clothes hanging up, and there's clothes already in a bag, and I took the clothes that were hanging up and put them in another bag, and I took them and I chucked them in the dumpster because, you know.
Miss Longo.
Your Honor.
Just a second, Miss Longo. You have to pay for that. You can't do that. I mean, you called your boyfriend's house.
I know what I did legally was wrong.
Okay. You called your boyfriend's house. Nobody admitted to you that they were there sleeping together. She has her own boyfriend. I mean, you may not have liked the fact that she went there and stayed at your boyfriend's house without your permission. But you assumed that they were sleeping together. Nobody acknowledged that to you, did they?
His roommate told me.
I don't believe that.
His name's Mark.
I don't believe that. Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody stir up trouble?
I don't understand why she went there behind my back.
That's not the issue. That's not the issue. I mean, he gives a perfectly plausible explanation. The 3 of you had stayed there before. Is that right? If you want to act impulsively, Miss Longo, then you have to pay for it. Your clothes are worth how much, sir?
Mine were in there about $4.91 or so. I had some
Well, that's
shoes.
not a lot. Women's clothes are usually much more expensive.
He had like 2 shirts. That's about it.
What clothes did you have there, sir?
Liar.
What
I have
clothes?
them on the list.
Tell me what clothes you had there.
I don't recall. It's been 2 months. I had a dress shirt. I had a pair of Airwalk tennis shoes, a pair of flip-flops, a dress shirt that I had.
We talked about the dress shirt twice. She's going to pay, but she's not going to provide you with a new wardrobe.
No, I understand.
Go ahead, keep going.
And I had the battery for the cellular phone that I purchased. It's a StarTAC. It's one of those little tiny flip phones.
Right, and how much was that?
The battery's $225. The phone was $600.
Phone was $600. Who spent $600? Who?
I made really good money this year, so I bought her a phone.
You bought her a $600 phone and paid $600 for it without a service contract?
I work for the company.
That's it.
I work for GT MobileNet. I made $70,000 in 3 months.
Just to say, that's not what I'm asking you, sir. There isn't a moron in this country that spends $600 for a phone without getting the phone for practically nothing, so that they can. So all you have to do is sign up for a couple of years worth of service, and then you don't spend $600 for a phone. Maybe you spend $200 for a phone.
It was a $1,000 phone, and we got it reduced. It was one of the very small StarTAC cellular phones. You're right. You can get a very large phone for free.
Not a very large.
Okay,
sir.
you can get an okay-sized phone for free. I got her an extremely small telephone.
Well, why didn't she take this extremely small telephone with her when she was traveling?
I have a car phone,
I
Your
also
Honor.
bought her a car phone that's mounted in her car. So she took that one because it had roaming capabilities to go into San Francisco. The little small one didn't, so there was no need to bring it. She didn't need 2 phones.
I don't know if I believe you. I don't know if I believe that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think you need some more plastic surgery and another boob job. See, mine are real.
And later today,
So you called Child Protective Services, sir, because he was using vulgar language.
Well, he was exposing himself to the girls, too.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 21-year-old dancer Suzanne Longo admits to throwing Stephanie Poff's clothing into a dumpster. Suzanne says she felt betrayed by her former friend when she thought Stephanie was sleeping with her boyfriend.
I don't know if I believe this phone business. Clothes, I believe. Phone, I don't believe.
Your Honor, can I?
Yeah, sure.
My witness, Ashley, she came to the apartment the night we left so I could pick up a few of my things. She was there. You can ask her.
This one?
Yes.
This is Ashley.
Yes.
What do you know about the phone? Right, that you remember specifically that night. Look at me.
She had the phone there. She put it in the bag with all the rest of her clothes. There's 3 bags of clothes in the living room.
Where did she take the phone from?
From the bedroom. I guess she had other stuff in the bedroom. I don't know.
Just a minute. She took the phone from the bedroom and she put it in one of the bags that were in the living room?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah.
What was the phone doing in the bedroom?
I had my own closet in her room.
Yeah.
And we have the phone plugged in to charge it.
Yeah.
And I thought about taking the phone, and I thought, I don't think it'll work in there, so I put it in a bag of clothes to leave it. I took the things I had and we left.
Ah, baloney. Baloney.
The phone has been shut off. The phone number's been shut off effective July 30th when this happened.
That's fine. Forget the phone. Forget the phone. It doesn't make sense to me that you take a phone out of a bedroom and unplug it where it's being charged and put it in a bag that's sitting in the living room and you're going away. It seems to me if you're going away for a couple of days and if your phone is in your bedroom, you leave it in the bedroom when it happens to be the most expensive thing. Listen, there isn't a question in my mind that she destroyed your property. This is not a windfall.
Can I say one thing?
What?
She had exactly this much space in my closet. And this is how big it was. And this is where the 3 bags sat of clothes. That is all. She didn't have the whole closet. I had my stuff in the rest of the closet.
She said the stuff was in the living room.
She's a liar.
She said the stuff was in the living room.
Your Honor, I had clothes in the living room,
I
and
think
I
it
had
was in
my
the
own
closet.
closet. She has 2 closets in her bedroom. One
Is there
closet was
differing
mine,
stories here?
and one closet was hers. And we had just done laundry, so I had 3 bags of laundry in the living room.
Okay. Aside from your 2 dress shirts, sorry, the 1 dress shirt, and then you said you had another dress shirt. You had 2 or 1 dress shirt?
I believe there's 1 dress shirt there.
Okay, so it's a 1 dress shirt, a pair of flip-flops, and sneakers. What else did you have?
I don't recall. When I made up the list 2 months ago when we were trying to do this in August, so I don't. That's
Well,
all
that
that's in
doesn't
my
sound like a
memory.
lot of clothes from somebody who was living there full-time, sir.
I wasn't living there full time, ma'am. She was, and I had just spent the night there a couple of times when she was there.
He had a pair of his jeans that I had bought
Yeah,
him there, too.
that's
They're
right.
expensive jeans from Nordstrom's.
Lucky's brand.
Can I be reimbursed for rent since they were living there?
No.
Even though I don't remember her living there?
Just a second. Did you have an agreement with them to pay rent?
No, I let her
Then-
stay there for 1 day
Then
at
you
a
don't.
time.
Then you had no contract with her to pay rent.
She stayed there for exactly 5 days.
Listen to me. You have to have an arrangement to pay rent, an agreement. And if she doesn't pay, then you have a lawsuit. Do you understand?
Okay.
Good. All right. Sir, you look like a very natty dresser, which means you're a very good dresser. So I'm going to say that you had 1 good shirt, 1 good pair of flip-flops, and a nice pair of jeans. You're going to get $200. Madam,
Yes.
I looked over your whole list.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
She had taken all of her all of her clothes that were in the closet, everything she owned, and to put them in the car. Filled up her trunk and her back seat with her clothes. She had been tired of her clothes being in her car and living out of her car. So approximately 2 or 3 days before this had happened, she said, you know what, I'm tired of everything being wrinkled. Suzanne said, no problem, hang everything up. So she brought everything up, hung everything up. I took home the dirty laundry and brought it back.
I'm telling you, please give me a break. This case, $200 for, what is your name, Mr. Puff?
Grotman.
You're Grotman. You're Puff?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You're going to get $2,000 to replace your wardrobe, madam, and you're getting $200 to replace your shirt and your dungarees and your flip-flops. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back over to your right, please.
Quite frankly, I think she needs help.
Your face still has craters in it. Why don't you get some plastic surgery? How about a nose job?
And now the next case.
Parties on Beckman versus Hunter. Step forward, please.
42-year-old service technician Gary Beckham is suing his neighbors Chris and Jamie Hunter, claiming their 3-year-old daughter Tiffany scratched his truck with a knife. The Hunters are countersuing Mr. Beckham for harassment.
That is the villain?
That is the villain, yes.
Cures him. However, according to your complaint, Mr. Beckman, this little girl over here is 3 years old.
Right.
Your daughter took a knife or a sharp instrument and damaged your car.
Correct.
You don't deny that you did that?
No, I do not.
However, for some reason, you don't feel as if you're responsible for it.
It's not that I don't feel responsible for it. It's the initial lawsuit that he filed was for $1,650 and for 5 days of a rent-a-car, which I felt was a little out of line.
Okay. So it's not so much the issue of whether you are responsible, it's the amount he's suing for.
This is correct, Your Honor.
All right, so let's deal with that first. Sir, do you have the receipts for having the car fixed?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see them, please. Sir, explain this to me, all right?
Okay. I originally sued for $1,650. That was the higher complaint, or the higher estimate that I got to fix my car. Everybody was telling me that it could not be buffed out. I do have pictures of the damage.
But it was.
When it was all said and done, I had a limit, Your Honor, and I had to turn it in. I was 2 days away from turning it in when the damage got done. Okay? They gave me a 30-day extension to get the thing fixed. I took it down to Crown Dodge. I says, fix it. Buff it out, paint it, whatever you need to do.
Okay.
I need to get rid of my car. They came back and said it was buffed out, fine. The dealership bought the car back. And so now I amended my complaint to $75, which was the cost of the buff out.
Oh, that's easy. See that? Out of pocket $75.
Correct.
Very good. So we've taken care of his claim against you for $75 from $1,650. So far, you're ahead of the game. Now, you have a counterclaim against him for $2,000. You want to explain this to me?
Well, Your Honor, just shortly after this incident happened on the 13th, a lady shows up at my door. She's from Child Protective Services. Somebody has called and filed this report here, anonymously, about my care and conduct of my 2 children. Now, when this incident happened with Mr. Beckham's truck, I was at work. They're generally really good kids, but this woman saw that. She knew that we took good care of our children. She closed this case, finding it unfounded, but noted that the day that the claim was filed, on the 15th for this incident, is the same day that that anonymous phone call to PSSA was made. There have been countless number of vulgar, rude, insulting...
Well, let me start with this. Did you call in this report to Child Protective Services, sir?
Me and about 5 other people have called Child Protective Services.
You called?
Yes, I have called.
Did you call on the date that this happened with your car?
No, I did not.
When did you call, sir?
It had to be 2 weeks later.
What made you call Child Protective Services 2 weeks later?
Just the vulgar language that I heard come out of their older son. He was talking to some girls, vulgar language. Something needed to be said.
When you're talking about their older son, you're talking about this little boy here?
Yes, Tyler.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The way he was talking to them, the vulgar language he was using, okay, that was conduct unbecoming of those 6-year-olds.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 42-year-old service technician Gary Beckham says Chris and Jamie Hunter's 3-year-old daughter Tiffany scratched his truck with a knife. The Hunters claim Mr. Beckham continually harasses them.
So you called Child Protective Services, sir, because he was using vulgar language?
Among other things, yes.
Well, give me the other things.
Well, he was exposing himself to the girls, too. And that is not conduct of a 6-year-old boy.
Tell me what you mean by he was exposing himself, what you saw, sir.
I saw him take himself and show it to these 2 little girls. I even talked to the fathers of the 2 little girls. And the way he was talking to them, the vulgar language he was using, okay, that was conduct unbecoming of a 6-year-old. So I had to let somebody, in my good conscience, I have 2 boys, I have to let somebody know. So I called PSSA.
Well, what about the fathers of the 2 little girls?
I have no idea what they did. None whatsoever. I'm pretty sure that they were upset. They live right next door to these guys.
How many calls had been called into Child Protective Services?
This is the only one there you have any note that I know anything about, Your Honor. And Mr. Beckham nor 2 other girls' father have never come and spoke to me or my husband. And this is the first we've ever heard of this.
So what happened after this?
The case
was closed.
The case was closed and unfounded. It's just a constant and endless battle that we're bad to our children. We're not taking care of them. Just it's been one thing after another, all resolving back to a 3-year-old scratching this track. And I just didn't feel it was right.
Well, the fact that it may not have been right does not make it the subject of a lawsuit. Mr. Beckham.
Yes.
Let me tell you what I have a problem with, sir.
Okay.
You know I take child abuse, child neglect very seriously. The fact that you allegedly saw this little boy do what you have described is not child abuse, and it's not necessarily neglect.
Okay.
It is the kind of thing that a normal person would, if there was a normal relationship between neighbors, result in you ringing their doorbell and saying, "This is what I saw your little boy doing. You might want to have a talk with him." And you know, if you have children, sir,
yes,
you know that kids do that sort of thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that the child is being abused or neglected by his parents. So when you use Child Protective Services for other kind of relief, that takes away caseworkers from doing their legitimate work. That means the time they spent going out on this nonsense, they can't be investigating legitimate cases. That's wrong.
Well, you know, Your Honor, when you see somebody exposing himself to 2 other little girls,
you're talking about a 6-year-old, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're talking about a 6-year-old.
I let the only appropriate people that I knew, other than management of the trailer park, which...
No, you let the right people know about it. You let the fathers of the 2 little girls
Correct.
know what you had seen.
Correct.
So that they could take appropriate steps, which means that they could have come to speak to these people. They could have said to their 2 little girls, "I don't want you to play with that little boy anymore." They could have taken specific precautions. What you did was wrong.
Okay.
Pay for your own car. This lawsuit and the counterclaimant dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. There you go, out the back door to your right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
The social worker that came out obviously saw what it was worth. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, this is case number 270 on the calendar in the matter of Beers versus Murphy. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, sir.
It's your daughter.
Yes.
Your complaint alleges that your daughter broke your glasses during an altercation that you were having.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to get to the reason why you would sue her for the damage to your glasses, for the new glasses, in a minute. I have a countersuit by you for the destruction of a fish tank and the fish and the filter and everything else against your mother. I think you're probably suing the wrong person, because I don't think she destroyed your fish tank, right?
Right.
So let's start at the beginning. How did this tragedy start?
Amy had written to me in May and asked to come and live with us. They wanted to relocate from Vermont.
Who's they?
Amy and Jeff and my grandchildren.
Jeff.
Yes.
And so I allowed them to come in, and we were all getting along just fine. And then Amy decided that she was no longer going to be associated with Jeff, so she kicked him out of my house. Well, 2 weeks went by, and he said that he wasn't going to support his grandchildren. And with my rising utility bills, I asked him to move those fish out of my house.
Okay, we sort of missed a step. When they moved in not only with their children.
Yes.
But with a fish tank.
Big fish tank.
How big?
About as big as this table. One of them was, and then the other one was about this big.
Full of fish?
There were only 4 fish.
Okay. But a big tank?
Big tanks.
Okay. All right. So you decided that the electric bills were too high.
Mm-hmm.
So you told him to get his fish tank out of the
Just to
house.
move the fish, and I would take care of the children and Amy.
Okay. What happened? He didn't?
He didn't, no. For about 2 weeks, we all tried to get him to move those fish, and he wouldn't. And then on the night of August 3rd, Edward...
That's your boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am. Unplugged the fish tank. Both of them. Amy discovered that they were unplugged, plugged them back in. Now, I wasn't here at the time.
The 4 fish were still alive at that point?
Yeah.
Big fish, little fish?
Big fish.
Big.
Big fish. She plugged them back in, and Edward kind of got a little upset and started throwing things out the door.
You mean the fish tank out the door?
Just the filters, the pump, and lights.
Wrong. Right?
Right.
Right. That's what I said that evening.
Wrong. That he was
if I
wrong.
would have been there, I don't think it would have happened.
So you weren't there when
No,
he
I
threw
was
it.
not.
And then your daughter came in.
Well, she called me at a friend's house to give me grief. And then I went home, and about a half an hour later, Amy comes through my bedroom door just a screeching. And we ended up in my other daughter's bedroom, and we were still screeching at each other. And she just started hitting me.
And your glasses fell off?
They broke off.
They broke off. Where did she hit you?
About the head and shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I restrained her on my daughter's bed. And we were screeching a little more. And next thing I know, she pops me in the mouth about 5 or 6 times after that.
Had you ever had that kind of physical altercation with your daughter before, Ms.
No.
Beers? It was the first time?
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
My daughter's going to be 2 in December, and my son's going to be 4 in February.
So you were 16 when your son was born?
Yes.
He's the father of both children?
Yes.
You work?
Yep.
That's a start. What do you do?
Carpentry and fishing, commercial fishing.
You make a living?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Are you married?
No.
Nope.
Stand up here. Why?
I didn't want to rush Amy into a marriage situation, into a full commitment type thing. I want it to be, her decision as well as mine. And she, being young, I wasn't going to rush her into making a full commitment like that.
What do you think a 2- and a 4-year-old are?
A commitment.
That's a full commitment. A marriage, you can say, I made a mistake, I put erasers on pencils for a reason, I crossed this out and I move on. You can't do that with 2 children. Always amazes me. I'm not from this generation.
From a different time.
Different time. You have to make a mental commitment to get married, but not to have 2 children together.
We want to get married.
What?
But it's not that easy.
Why is it not just... Why is it not that easy?
Because we've had a rough time. I mean, it is difficult making a living, supporting 2 children, and paying all the bills myself.
Well, you've been doing it now for 4 years. Why can't you pay $15 and get a marriage license?
Did that bother you?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think you have to forgive each other.
Just sick and tired of getting hurt. I've been through too much in my life, and I have 2 kids, and I'm trying to do the best I can with them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terry Beers is suing her daughter, Amy Murphy, because she broke her eyeglasses during a fight over 2 fish tanks. Amy claims her mother caused the fight, and she only pushed her in self-defense.
Now, Amy.
Yes.
Did you hit your mother?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because she would not get off me, and I kept on telling her to get off me.
I wasn't on her at that time.
She was quiet.
I'm
now you have to
sorry.
be quiet, Miss Beers. She was on you how, Amy?
She pinned me down to my sister's bed, and she had me locked down.
Well, how did it start?
How did it start?
You came home, you were angry.
Yes, but...
So you walk in the door, you were angry. Tell me what happened.
I went into my mother's room, and I did ask for an explanation.
How did you ask?
I said it with a tone, but I wasn't screaming, though.
Okay.
But Ed, both of these people were drunk at this time, too. And they were screaming at me, and I just come off and I said, you have lost rights to my grandchildren because of this. And I walked out of the room, and I started to go get some clothes for the kids. Ed came in the room first, and he was hollering at me, and he was in my face hollering at me, and he wouldn't back away from me. And my mother came in the room, and I was going to walk downstairs, and she blocked the doorway and said I wasn't going anywhere, little missy. And Ed had approached me, and my mother was in my face. Both of them were screaming at me, and these 2 people are drunk in front of me, screaming at me, and I was asking them nicely, and then I went to screaming to tell them to get them out of my face, and they wouldn't. I was scared.
So what did you do, Amy?
What did I do?
Amy, look at me. Look at me and tell me what you did.
I went towards the doorway, and my mother blocked the door, and I backed up, and she got in my face some more.
And you pushed her?
Yes, I pushed her away from me, but it was a push, just get away from me, please. And she pushed me back. I pushed her, she pushed me back, and I ended up on the bed, and she pinned me there. And I kept on telling her to get off me. I was screaming, I was crying for her to get off me. I have 2 bars in my back, and she was hurting me. And through everything that I've been through in my life, this woman did not deserve to do that to me.
Everybody was hot, Amy?
Yes, everyone was. Everyone was angry.
And you were hot over a fish tank?
It wasn't really the fish tank, it was the point behind it.
Which was?
Was why he did that to my things. I mean...
Yeah, he was absolutely wrong. But what did that have to do with your mother?
What did it have to do with my mother?
Yeah,
I called her up on the phone. She was at a friend's house, and she was trying to warn me all along that Ed was going to get angry and he was going to do something, but I never knew what he was going to do. I never, immediately thought, oh, that means he's going to ruin my fish stuff. I mean, I never knew that was he's going to do. My mom tried warning me, and that's what I was angry about. And she just stood right by his side like it was no big deal at all.
No, well, she tried to warn you, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
I certainly am not condoning him destroying property that belonged to you. It was your property?
Mine.
Was yours?
It was a family project.
Hmm?
The kids helped me put it together, and they were all involved in it. And
Yeah, it
when
was
we
an
came back,
absolutely
the
wrong
kids
thing to
saw
do.
this. The kids saw that.
What happened to the fish?
Well, eventually they were killed. They were dumped out on the ground. The tank was smashed.
And if they waited one more day, we would have found.
Who did that?
Ed and Harold.
And I would like to submit that another reason their electricity bill was so high is because Harold put a new air conditioner in his little trailer, and they had 15 things all plugged into one outlet. Of course your electricity bill is going to go right up.
Jeff, that's really not particularly relevant.
Okay.
Your last name, sir?
Hutchinson.
They may sue you for this fish tank,
Right.
right? But this lawsuit is against your mother. The countersuit is against your mother's. She didn't destroy your fish tank. You had no reason to touch their property.
Exactly.
Period. I don't care what it is. First of all, sir, how long have you two been together?
5 years.
What you do, and I don't know whether you're in for the long haul or the short haul, that's up to her.
Long haul.
Long haul? Anybody that would do such a thing, that would have that kind of temper, Miss Beers, I would think about making it a long-term commitment.
Well, we're working on him.
You got to usually start with them when they're about 3.
Oh, well, I know.
Right? So he's past 3. But you see, Ed, what you did affected her relationship with her daughter. My sense is that you had a baby when you were 16, became pregnant when you were 15. There was probably a lot of turmoil in your house. Got a fair statement? Was your mother supportive of you?
No.
Well, she let you move back into the house. How could you say that
She
wasn't
did, but
supportive?
she threw me out when I was 16 years old, out onto the street, packed my sister's things. I had nowhere to go.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You only have one mother. She may not be perfect. And if she's made mistakes as a mother, you're supposed to forgive her. Want to give her a hug?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terry Beers and her daughter, Amy Murphy, are in court after an argument turned violent, leaving Terry with broken eyeglasses. Amy says she was only defending herself after her mother started the fight.
How long were you estranged from your mother?
Oh, I'd say...
Not very long.
Year?
No, it wasn't that long.
Okay.
They were still in Maine when my first grandchild was born.
Amy, what I'm trying to say is, you know, other people come and go in your life. That's just a reality. But you may get angry with your mother, she may get angry with you, you may have arguments, whatever. But you can usually count on your mother. Bottom line, when all is said and done, more than you can count on anybody else in your whole life. You can count on your mother. Now, what you did, sir, was interfere with that. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
I am.
Good. Then you can sit down. That was a good thing to say, so I can't even say anything to you. You are ashamed of yourself. You broke your mother's glasses.
Yes, I did.
It's a shame, Mrs. Beers, that you came to court with your daughter. I'm surprised that you did. You have a right to. Maybe what you needed was sort of a catharsis to get it all out. Maybe. Maybe that's why you're here. I think you have to forgive each other. Amy, you're 20 years old. 20 years old is hardly cooked for a human being. And you may have lots of anger with your mother. She may have a lot of disappointment with you over, you know, the way things turned out. But eventually it'll work itself out if you let it. You know.
Just sick and tired of getting hurt. I've been through too much in my life, and I have 2 kids, and I'm trying to do the best I can with them.
We were trying to start over.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough.
Well, Amy, it's never too late to give it a shot with your mom. So you buy her new glasses. New glasses, what, $200? So that you have.
Thank you.
But Amy, you have 2 kids. And you have parents, Jeff?
Yeah, the kids are with my parents right now, and we haven't seen them since this happened.
Haven't seen the children?
Nope.
Why?
Because I've been busy every day working, and we really haven't been able to afford to go back and forth from Vermont, and we want our kids back as soon as we can.
So
and
they're
now
living
we
with
have
your
a stable
parents?
environment, yes.
So they're living with your parents?
Yeah, they're in their custody. I place custody of the children with my parents.
It's the safest thing to do for them.
At the time, that wasn't what it was. It was to hurt you.
I don't
This is
understand.
what Amy came home and told me, that he was taking the kids away to hurt Amy because he wouldn't take her back.
Well, they have clearly had some difficulty.
This is true.
Judge Judy, we agreed together to give custody of the kids to my parents, and it was a decision. We decided to take the kids out of Ed and Terry's
Well, then
house
Amy's
because it was not a fit environment for our children.
Well, Jeff, I don't necessarily disagree with you, because I don't think that the kind of environment where you have this kind of hostility is a good place for children. It's a good thing for children to be surrounded by the love and support of grandparents. Grandparents are nice to children. You know, they do all the nice things for kids and don't usually have any of the downside, discipline, and that sort of stuff. But bottom line is, if you are 2 reasonable people, you're going to have to make a solid home for yourselves so that you can take care of your children, because it's not fair for children to bounce around from one home to another home to your home, to not see you for weeks at a time. Children don't understand that, especially when they're 2 and 4 years old. How old are you?
28 today.
Well, we share a birthday.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Seems to me it's time for you 2 kids to really grow up and understand that you made these 2 babies, and it's your responsibility to grow up and make a home for them. I also want you to think, Amy, that you only have one mother. She may not be perfect. She may have made some tremendous mistakes. You made mistakes. And let's discount Ed. Ed is not really part of your life. She's part of your life. And if she's made mistakes as a mother, you're supposed to forgive her. Mothers are supposed to have unconditional love for their children. And children, as they get older, are supposed to forgive the frailties of a parent, because parents aren't perfect. Your kids will benefit from loving 2 sets of grandparents. All right? Okay. You're going to buy your mother some new glasses. Want to give her a hug? Please. Huh? Not yet?
Nope. Not ready to yet.
Will you think about it? Please?
Yep.
Okay. Good luck.
Please excuse you. You may step out. Out the back door.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's telling everybody the wrong things. She tells people what she wants them to hear and not what you 2 discussed.
I've been through a lot with this woman, and there's just no ending to the games that I'm going through, and I'm sick of it. And this is the end of it right here, and I've already made up my mind. So.
And tell me about the first time that you started putting things on your credit card.
I guess we went to the mall, and he wanted to get, I think it was Sony PlayStation was the first thing that I got him.
What's a Sony PlayStation?
It's a video game system, and I got that for him because he said he really wanted it, and he said, you know, he couldn't come up with all the money at one time, so if I put on my credit card, he could come up with the monthly payments.
Mr. Lunzinski, does that sound familiar to you?
No, Your Honor.
You remember this video game?
I never asked for anything. They were gifts.
Tell me about being at the mall, sir.
I went to the mall. She surprised me. talking about she wasn't going to tell me anything what we were going to do at the mall. But, you know, she had all that inside of her, what she wanted to, you know, buy me. So we went out. She bought me a Sony PlayStation. She took it in her responsibility to where she wanted to go out, you know. I mean, they're gifts. I didn't ask her to buy them. She knew that I wanted them.
I just asked you about one thing, sir, and you go and give me a whole song and dance. You ever
Sorry
hear
about
the
that, Your
expression, "Me think the gentleman protests too much"? Did you ever hear that? Charles Schultz didn't say that. What next, madam?
The car, my car. I was out of town on a business trip with my father, and my car was parked at his house. And I did mention that I did want to sell my car, but I needed to get at least $900 for it because I still owed that money on it. So I guess someone was driving by his house and said that they wanted to buy it, and so Lance sold the car to this guy that I didn't even know he said $1,000. So I said, okay, that's fine, you know, I'll do everything when I get back. So
what happened?
Nothing happened with that. I kept calling him, and the guy that bought the car changed.
How could he buy a car without you signing over your certificate? How could somebody buy a car without you signing over the certificate of title?
I don't know.
Where's the certificate of title for your car?
It wasn't in my name because I was going to get the title when I finished paying it off. So I have.
Whose name was it in?
In the person I bought it from, Dolores.
So the car wasn't in your name?
Right, because I needed to finish paying it off.
How did you sell a car that belonged to Dolores?
Well, if I can say one thing.
No. Answer my question.
How did I sell a car?
How do you sell a car to somebody that
No, that's a good
belonged
question. That's something
to
that,
Dolores?
Your Honor, I haven't figured out for the last 4 months. You know, the guy wanted to buy the car. He came to look at the car. I got a hold of her. She wanted to sell the car. And the guy was supposed to give me $600, which I couldn't get $600 for the car. So the car had so many problems, you know, even though, I mean, I did something.
How do you sell a car without a certificate of title? You mean he just gave you money and he took the car? How's he going to register a car without a certificate of title?
I don't know, less paperwork is in the car, Your Honor.
It has to be signed, sir.
Yeah, I know, Your Honor.
Madam, go to the police.
I'm in the process of doing that.
Go to the police. Don't tell me about this car. I think you two people are both whacked up. I really do. Something suggests to me that you're both a little off. You go to the police, and you have the police get the car back. Did you get any money for it?
Didn't you get any money for the car?
What word didn't you understand, sir?
Yeah, I got money, and I got money from the guy that bought the car, and I handed her $400. That's the only amount that he gave me that was affordable for him, even though he had to pay $600, which he was supposed to pay $200 more. And next thing you know, the car's in his name. And I'm not God. I don't know how he did that.
Did he give you?
I don't have a crystal ball.
Just a minute. Did he give you any money?
He gave me $400, and then I gave it back to him.
What?
Then I let him borrow it.
Borrow it?
When did you let him borrow it?
I'm not sure. It was for car payments and groceries and stuff that he wanted because he said he was going to pay me back. You know, I admit that I was an idiot, and I know this.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You would throw temper tantrums in the mall, and I was scared of you, so I bought those things for you.
Oh, different story.
And later today,
It's not her fault that your father violated his parole and served 6 months. She doesn't have to support you, sir. She's got enough trouble of her own.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 20-year-old Emily Siebertson says her ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old Lance Lunzinski, owes her money he borrowed before they broke up. Lance says the money was a gift.
So far, the only thing that you told me you bought for him, madam, that he said he would repay, was this Nintendo game or whatever else it is.
Yeah.
What
and
else did you
some
buy?
Games, a shaver, clothes, shoes, and money for the car payment, groceries, and...
For him?
Yeah. He said he didn't have any money, so I was helping him out because we were in a relationship. I trusted him. I cared about him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Your Honor, we were in a relationship. We loved each other. We cared about each other. I didn't love her where she didn't think inside I loved her the way that I should have loved her. She loved me more. She gave way too much in a relationship. She gave way too fast. You know, I haven't got stuff like that since I was a little kid from my mom bringing me stuff like that.
That's
now
because
I'm
if
here.
I didn't get you things, you would throw a temper tantrum and you would either
That's
beat me up
incorrect.
or you left me stranded at the mall if I didn't buy you those boots.
No,
you
I
know,
don't think so.
you would throw temper tantrums in the mall, and I was scared of you, so I bought those things for you. And they were
Oh,
not
different
gifts.
story. Listen to me, madam. It's coming clear to me. He used you.
I know.
He used you. But this is a court. In a court, there has to be a contract. Because what you're really suing for is a breach of contract, that you had an oral contract with him, that you would allow him to make certain purchases on your credit card and he would pay the bills.
Right.
And he never made a payment on your credit card.
Yes, he did.
He did?
Yes, he
total? Show me where he made a payment on your credit card.
I made quite a few of them, to be honest with you.
You did?
And it's just something that I didn't have to do. It's just.
Oh,
you know?
now it's coming nice. This is easier because then I could do the right thing, even though I thought
I mean,
that I
it wasn't
wasn't
money
able
that
to.
I owed. You know, it was $75 to go get a concert ticket, the Pink Floyd concert. They wanted
Oh, good. Oh, right. And you didn't make certain payments, sir.
It wasn't even payments. It's something that I gave. That's what my heart wanted to do. You know? I mean, it's only money. It's only a piece of paper.
How much does he still owe on the credit cards?
He paid $300. What was the total? It was
$3,900.
$39.92.61 minus $300, I guess.
Now that includes $1,500, over $1,500 in ATM cash advances to him.
Right.
What was that for?
For when he needed tires for his car, and I did give him my ATM card.
Just a sec. I have a hook to hang my robe on because he did make certain payments, which acknowledges the fact that they were loans.
Right.
Okay. So because he used you, there's no question about that. However, I wouldn't say anything to me if I were you, sir. You have to prove to me that there was an understanding, clear contract when he said to you, I'm taking out this money and I will pay you back. Did that happen?
Yes.
That's
$1,573. I can't wash your mouth out with soap, sir, but I certainly can take care of it financially. You owe her $3,692.61. That's the most expensive curse word you're ever going to say. That's all!
Parties are excused. Step out. The back door to your right.
I fell for his scam. He's been doing it a lot longer than I have, and you know, I cared for him. I cared for the family, you know, and I had a good time with you guys.
It wasn't a
but,
scam.
You know,
It wasn't a scam.
And now the next case.
Parties on Mazer versus Woodbridge. Step forward.
21-year-old student Matthew Mazer says his father's former live-in girlfriend, Pamela Woodbridge, illegally evicted him after his father went to jail.
How old are you, Mr. Mazer?
21.
When did you turn 21?
April 30th.
Now, in May of this past year, you were living with the defendant, correct? And you were living there with your father.
Yes.
And your father and the defendant were engaged to be married or living together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing with yourself in May, sir?
I was beginning to go to college at that time.
What do you mean beginning to go to college? Who begins to go to college in May?
No, I was going to go through summer courses.
That starts in June or July.
Well, registration's in May, though.
That's not a major effort, sir. That's not doing much going to register for school. It's not necessarily a full-time job. What were you doing with yourself in May?
Nothing at that time.
What were you doing in April?
Well, nothing at that time either, ma'am.
Well, let's try March. What were you doing with yourself in March?
Nothing, preparing to go to school. I was...
You mean getting into the thinking mode? Is that what you're trying to tell me, Mr. Mazer? All right. All this has a purpose, sir. You're suing the defendant because in May, according to both of you, your father got arrested, taken off to jail, leaving you living with a perfect stranger. Right?
No, we lived together for 8 months prior to that.
8 months, a lifetime.
We were pretty close. Well, they went out for 2 years before that.
But you were living with them for 8 months.
Yeah.
And your father was, I assume, contributing to the household. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's a two-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
So after your father was arrested, you were still living there. You are suing her for $4,000. You say she illegally evicted you from the apartment, and she kept your furniture that you bought.
That's correct. It was bought for me by my father.
It was bought and for you. You better get, before you go to college, you better brush up on your English. It's bought for you by your father. Now, what did you expect her to do, Mr. Mazur, when the person who was contributing to half the rent, I assume, half the utilities, is hauled off to jail, leaving her with a total biological stranger to support? Because you're on your way preparing yourself for college. What'd you expect her to do?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I got steroid psychosis because they tried to put me in remission. So I went crazy, and David kind of came into my life, and I didn't know he was a con artist.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Matthew Mazur claims his father's former live-in girlfriend, Pamela Woodbridge, illegally evicted him.
Who are you?
I'm his father.
Terrific. Step up here. Mr. Mazur, how did you expect this lady to take care of business when you were arrested? What were you arrested for?
I wasn't actually arrested. I was taken into custody by the parole department based on some facts that the sheriff's department gave them, which
So
to
you were
date
on
they
parole.
never even filed on.
So you were taken into custody on parole violation.
Right.
Did you spend any time in jail, sir?
Yes, I did.
How much time?
6 months.
What arrangements did you make with the defendant to support the household while you were in jail?
None. It was paid for through the first of the following month, and I didn't anticipate staying in jail very long.
Okay. So she told you that you had to find another place to live because she needed a roommate who could afford to pay at least half the rent.
That's correct.
Sounds right to me.
He was on the lease.
Who put your name on the lease?
She did.
Did you put his name on the lease?
He's listed on the lease as a minor.
Let me ask you this question. How long were you living in this apartment?
I moved in on November 10th of 1996.
And when did he move in?
He moved in, I couldn't
At
put
the
him
same
on the
time.
lease, right.
Shh. At the same time.
But I couldn't put him on the lease because David has been to prison 2 or 3 times for credit card fraud, and so his credit is ruined.
Now, this young man moved in with you later.
No, he did move in at the same time as
So you
well.
all moved into this apartment together?
Right.
Okay. Mr. Mazur, I assume you moved into this apartment and your arrangement was, because you told me that you did, that you were going to pay the expenses on the apartment. You paid the rent, you paid the utilities, correct? Right? That was your arrangement with this lady. Where had you lived before?
I had a house in Dana Point, and in 1995 I got multiple sclerosis, and my husband of 11 years divorced me. And anyway, to make a long story short, I got steroid psychosis because they tried to put me in remission. So I went crazy, and David kind of came into my life, and I didn't know he was a con artist. He has scammed me out of $180,000. And I have my credit report right here to show.
The question that I'm asking you, and that's all very interesting, is when you moved into this apartment, I assume your arrangement was, because you did it for some 6 months, that you would pay the bills.
Right, and I think
Oh, good. Now, that was the arrangement that you had with us. So then you get hauled off to jail for 6 months, leaving her with the apartment,
And
nobody
I had-
to pay the rent,
I had no,
and
no,
your
that's
son.
where you're wrong. I had $5,000 in cash with me at the time I was arrested.
So what did you do with
Which was to pay her attorney to fight for the custody of her children. That money was taken, and I have this document, was taken in by the Department of Corrections and mailed to me the following day to the jail. For what purpose, I don't know. But I did have...
Did you get $5,000 from him?
No, his parole officer told me that David did have, I think she said $4,000, and she asked him, did he want her to give it to me, and he said no.
Just a minute. Do you have any proof to show me, Mr. Mazur, that you provided the defendant with $5,000 in order to cover the expenses of this apartment while you were away. Don't show me a lot of papers there. Show me where you turned over the money to the defendant to cover the expenses of the apartment.
The apartment part was here it is right here, $2,993.
Let me see it.
And the sheriff's department kept it. They said they could not give it to her because
Just a minute. So the answer is she didn't get it.
Yes.
So what are you showing me this baloney for? She didn't get it. So what you're telling me is I should take your good intentions into consideration.
No, she rented it, but what? The rent was paid to the end of the following month.
All right. She doesn't have to keep your son there not working. Now, furniture. You had furniture?
Well, David had gone out and bought a futon for Matthew on my credit card. Well, it may have been a joint credit card.
Right.
David was doing credit card roulette, basically.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He went out and bought a futon.
Right.
Is that the only piece of furniture that was bought specifically for Mr. Mazur Jr.?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there are other items. What other items, sir, do you say were bought by your father for you?
Not really any other furniture, just a couple tables and...
Tables? What
yeah,
tables?
just like end tables.
End tables? What end tables? Talk to me.
His mother took
What end tables?
They're just glass end tables, brass.
That your father bought for his 20-year-old son?
No, those were mine when I brought them there.
Okay, so where are they?
His mother took them. She came and picked up his things.
Except the futon.
Exactly.
Which you paid for.
Which I sold.
Which you sold.
Right.
And which was on your credit card.
Yes, ma'am.
Or on a joint credit card.
Right.
Which he wasn't paying from jail.
Right.
Good.
Excuse me, the insurance was paying for it. When she came down with MS, the insurance picked up all the bills. She virtually had no bills with the exception of the rent.
So just a minute. Why should she have any bills? That wasn't your arrangement. Mr. Mazur.
But there is an eviction process you go through in the state of California. You just don't throw somebody out and lock them out.
Where's his mother?
My mother, I can't live with her. She has cats, and I'm fatally allergic to them. So I can't live with my mother.
Your mother has cats, sir?
Yeah.
I have no more time. This lawsuit is nonsense. Case is dismissed. Who are you?
I was his girlfriend at the time, and he did have a job when he moved there.
I was invited by them to go to school. That's why I went there. And they didn't have the money at the time to pay for me to go to school.
Mr. Mazur, it's not her fault that your father violated his parole and served 6 months. She doesn't have to support you, sir. She's got enough trouble of her own.
That.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Out the back door to your
And
right.
on the next Judge Judy.
It was a cold thing what she did to me. She threw me on the streets knowing I had no place to go. I mean, it was a really hard thing for me to deal with. I had to come up with nothing. I mean, I had half my clothes, nothing else. That's all I had when she threw me on the streets.
I had to rent that room out because it's called survival.
The father of her child smashed her radio. Jordan says Kimberly threw his television out the window.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 419 on the calendar in the matter of Greg versus Allison. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Gregg, this was your boyfriend?
Yes, it was.
For how long?
Around 2 years.
Did you live together?
Yes.
You have any children?
Yes, we do.
How many?
1.
How old?
14 months.
How old are you?
19.
And how old were you when the baby was born?
18.
What kind of work do you do?
Assembly work.
How old are you?
20.
Terrific. So, you got into some big fights in the house, is that right?
He was the one always starting fights. He always used to break everything in my house. And he owes me a lot more than what I'm suing him for, but I didn't think I would have a good chance because the only proof I got is a radio that he had given to me after he broke my new one.
Well, so let me understand this. Because your complaint says he broke your radio.
Yes.
He says, I did. Why did you break her radio?
I was off. You know what I mean?
Didn't you know how to say that another way?
I was off, though.
Wait. All right. So you broke her radio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you bought her a new one.
Well, I got it off my brother. My brother gave it to me and I gave it to her.
So you have a radio.
I can show it to you. It was all, first of all, it doesn't rewind. It eats up your tapes. It gets only 2 stations.
No, it works. You can plug it in right now. I'm trying to tell you.
Did you throw a telephone of his out the window?
It was a TV, but
A TV, excuse me.
I had a corner suit, but I'm dropping that because I ain't worried about the $300 or whatever it was.
Did she throw your TV out the window?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I guess she was mad because I didn't go home or something.
Excuse me, Your Honor, but I can't pick up a $300 TV. It's in his mother's house, and he probably watches it every day. And he probably watches it every day. And
what did you throw out the window?
I've never threw anything of his
My
out the
clothes,
window.
my
'Cause
CDs,
I was scared
my
of him for one
TV,
thing. I couldn't throw
all my
anything of his out the window.
All my stuff.
He's broken my kitchen set. He's broken glass tables. He's broken through my window.
She's bugging. I never broken her house.
Miss Gregg, how long did you know him before you decided to have his baby?
It was my mistake, and I understand
How long
that.
did you know him?
It was about a week.
No.
And then,
no.
And then she was like, yeah.
How long did you know him?
Around 9 months.
It was like a week, but she got pregnant in like 9 months.
It only takes 9 months to have a baby.
Yeah, I'm saying, but after
I
like a
got
week, she was like,
pregnant.
oh, don't use no condoms, whatever. I was like, nah, I want to use condoms. And
First of all, I wouldn't. I'm sorry.
And she was like, nah, we ain't gonna do nothing if you use condoms. So I was like, all right, then.
Mr. Allison.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest to you, sir, you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
There are ways of expressing yourself in a court or in most other civilized locations that don't involve using 4-letter words.
All right, I'm sorry about that.
Do you understand?
Yes.
You go to church ever?
I used to go to church.
I
when
mean,
was
would
young.
you use these words when you were talking to your priest?
Nope.
Because you knew enough not to do that, right?
I was young, too. I was like...
So you mean you got older and dumber?
Nah.
You mean when you were younger, you were smarter?
Why I gotta be dumb?
Well,
You know what
because
I
if
mean?
you were younger, you said you knew not to talk to your priest and
I never
talk.
talked to the priest, really. I just went to Sunday school, for like 3 weeks. That's it.
Oy.
Then you got kicked out.
All right. You want a new radio?
Yes.
Give him back the one he gave you.
You want to keep this radio?
No, I don't.
She doesn't want that radio, Mr. Allison.
It's not
She
wrong
wants a
with
new radio. And she's suing you for $120 for the new radio. Wish I could give her $120 for a new radio and give myself $500 having to suffer here listening to your language. You have a child. Boy or a girl?
it. Little girl.
Do you visit with her?
Well, I seen her yesterday. That's it, though, for a while.
You're going to try to be a good father?
Yeah, I'm going to school in the fall, and I got a job right now.
You wouldn't want your daughter to grow up listening to that language that you use, would you?
Nope.
Excuse me, but he swears all the time in front of her. So if he didn't want her to grow up listening to that, he wouldn't do that in front of her.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
One thing I'm really pleased about is that you have intention of going back to school. Maybe you can learn something. Maybe.
And later today,
The only way she has to check, sir, is if she takes you to court. So this is a very foolish thing to have. Very stupid.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 19-year-old Kimberly Gregg claims 20-year-old Jordan Allison, the father of her child, smashed her radio. Jordan says Kimberly threw his television out the window.
So the two of you, who had absolutely no business making a child, made a child, and neither one of
Why
you...
didn't we have any business? We used to love each other.
Because you made this child, sir, when you were 18 years old?
It doesn't matter.
Oh. I don't have enough hours in the day to get through to you, sir. But I certainly hope one thing I'm really pleased about is that you have intention of going back to school. Maybe. Just maybe, you can learn something. Maybe.
What are you trying to say? I don't know nothing now. Right.
$120 for you. Buy yourself a new radio. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'll pay child support. I'll see my daughter, but I ain't being with her no more.
That's why you call me up all
I don't
the
call
time.
you. You're crazy. You're crazy.
Oh, all right. I
This
got
girl's
messages
crazy.
to prove it.
All right.
I ain't even
Prove
gonna
the
pull his
messages.
card, but he knows what I'm talking
All right,
about.
okay, whatever.
And now the next case.
Parties on Basler versus Cora. Step forward, please.
29-year-old blackjack dealer Michelle Basler is suing her ex-husband, graphic artist Peter Cora, 32, for not paying his share of their federal income taxes. Peter is countersuing his ex-wife for harassment.
Miss Basler, you and the defendant were married and divorced.
Correct.
And pursuant to your judgment of divorce, according to the defendant, he says that you were supposed to share the marital debts. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then you get a statement from the Internal Revenue Service saying that you were both deficient in paying income tax for a year while you were married, and they took your whole refund to satisfy that deficiency. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that was a joint debt?
Yes.
So you say he should be responsible for at least half?
Your Honor, a statement came to me from the IRS stating that almost $1,100 went to paying his Social Security.
His Social Security?
Number, not my number. The only reason why I was responsible is because I was married to him at the time and we had filed jointly for 1994 taxes.
Were you working in 1994?
No.
In the year that was filed? You were not?
No, I was not.
What kind of work was your husband doing at that time?
He is self-employed.
You have children together?
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
How many children?
One.
How old is that child?
He just turned 5.
So you were staying home with him when he was young?
Yes, I did.
So how much did they take altogether?
They took $1,089.30.
Can I see, please, your judgment of divorce?
Sure.
Here you go.
What kind of business are you in, sir?
I do graphic arts and printing.
Now, Miss Basler, this judgment's divorce is clear. It says that the plaintiff, that's him, shall be responsible for 1/2 of various community debts, including Sears, Sizes Unlimited, Broadway, Phone Company, and IRS for 1994 taxes, among other things. Defendant shall be responsible for 1/2 of the community debts and the debt against the 1988 Mercury. This divorce judgment was in 95, was filed in 95. Clearly this says that you're responsible for half.
Correct.
Okay. That means you're responsible for half.
Correct.
Good.
We're equally responsible for half of all community debts. And I spent over $3,000 in community debt. And I figured she didn't have a job when we were divorced. And I wanted to just, try to be fair. I paid him. I figured eventually one day down the road, it'll all wash out.
Okay.
The first penny taken from her, she blows up.
Okay. So let's see. Plaintiff, that's you. Sears bill. I'm going through each one of them. Let me see what you paid to Sears.
Your Honor, I have a $22 check for Sears that I don't have a copy of, but that was all that I paid.
$22 to Sears. Sizes Unlimited.
$150.34.
$150. So I'm going to give you credit for half of that. Sizes Unlimited. That was your bill?
Yes.
$75. What's next? Broadway.
Total for Broadway was $198.86.
Let's make it an even 200 because I'm so poor in math. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
Half. You get credit for $100, sir. I assume you have receipts for all these things that you paid.
Canceled checks, yes, Your Honor.
Good. So in total, sir, instead of these thousands of dollars that you're talking about, you got $175 that I'm going to give you credit for, because that's what the divorce decree says.
Okay.
Right?
Fine. In the judgment, it also stated that we were to share in the payment of her father's house, which I paid a payment of $1,045, and that was the only payment made.
Just a second. Okay, both parties shall be equally responsible for the defendant, that's you, refinancing of her house in California while your father resides in the house. What does that mean?
Basically, we borrowed money on the house, and I agreed as long as her father was living there that I would share in the cost.
What do you mean you borrowed money on the house?
The house belonged originally to Michelle and her sister. Her sister basically wanted nothing to do with the loan that we needed when we moved to Las Vegas.
Just a minute. What you're telling me you took out a home equity loan on the house?
Yes.
Well, why don't you just say that? That's something I understand very clearly. You took out a home equity loan on her house.
On her house.
On her house. On her property.
Correct.
And what'd you all do with the money?
We moved to Las Vegas.
Together?
Together.
How much money, sir, would you say you used of the home equity loan?
Between the two of us, all of it.
How much?
Your Honor, I can't give you an exact
Give me an
amount.
idea.
Okay, the first loan was in the amount of $75,000 is correct. Over $40,000 of it went to purchase a home here in Peter's name. I was not on that house. I given him the money for the down payment. We lived there. And the rest of it was to pay off consumer debt and to live, because Peter didn't have a job from the time we moved to Las Vegas until shortly after we moved in October of '91. It wasn't until the end of January of '92 that he found employment.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
$270 a month is an outrageous amount of child support from what apparently is an educated man like yourself in his own business, right, who's got money for a tape recorder.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Bassler wants her ex-husband, Peter Cora, to pay his share of their federal income taxes. He wants her to stop harassing him.
The reason I find that interesting is because I read your answer, sir, and in your answer, sir, you said that she didn't work, that you supported the whole family, that you worked and took care of everything, she just stayed home.
For the most part, I met the obligations. I was the one earning the money to pay back the loan.
Well, how much did you pay back?
We were paying probably around $1,000 a month. But
how much did you pay back?
We paid back at whatever the loan payments were until there was a balloon at the end of the loan. That's what caused the refinance.
How much did you pay on
The
it?
loan was a 30 due in 3. At the end of 3 years, I had a refinance. Peter made one payment before our divorce, and the rest of the time my sister and I took care of it.
Okay. Now, what's all this other thousands of dollars for harassment, Mr. Cora?
She has taken me to court for several things. She has told the district attorney statements that were absolutely false, and she has dragged me to court. She's made me out to be a deadbeat dad. I have paid every dime of my child support. My child is my primary concern. My divorce decree says 18% of my income. Since my income fluctuates, my child support payments fluctuated. So she...
did you have lawyers representing you in this divorce proceeding?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't you understand, madam, that when somebody is self-employed, you don't say, I'm going to accept 18% of his income. That brings you back and forth every single time a month comes due, because you don't have a paycheck to look at, and you have absolutely no way of checking. And the only way she has to check, sir, is if she takes you to court. So this is a very foolish thing to have in a support order, 18% of your income. Very stupid.
Your Honor, can I play a tape for you?
Just a second.
It's very critical in the harassment charges.
Just a second.
Yes.
Tell me what the tape is going to say to me.
Basically, it goes with her rambling on and on, how I'm going to take you to district court, I'm going to take you to family court, I'm going to keep you in court, I'm going to make your life miserable.
So why don't you go into court, sir, and say, I want a fixed amount to pay every week?
We already have that. The district attorney ordered me to pay $270 per month.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Your Honor, that issue is not finished. He has to prove his income. He supplied me with computer-generated income taxes in family court. And when we went for divorce, I was not represented. Peter went to court by himself.
Listen to me. I think that until you get the issue of support resolved, there is going to be continued acrimony. You cannot have a support order that says 18% of your income, especially when you are self-employed. So I would suggest as fast as you can to get the matter of support resolved.
It has been.
No, not according to her. If a district attorney directs you to pay a certain amount of money, sir, that is not a court proceeding. A district attorney is there as an interim advocate. So he has suggested that until this matter is ultimately resolved, you pay $270. But I'm telling you this, sir, if the judge, after hearing this case, determines that you, in fact, earn more than what you told the district attorney, based upon several factors, some of which I don't think I'm going to tell you now, so that they might come as a surprise to you. You must be prepared to pay more than the $270 a month, because that doesn't probably represent 18% of your actual income. We understand each other?
Yes.
Perfect.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Your counterclaim, sir, is dismissed. I am
You won't
awarding...
allow me to play this one last piece of evidence?
No, I'm not interested in her telling you she's going to take you to every court in the United States, including the Supreme Court of the United States. $270 a month is an outrageous amount of child support from what apparently is an educated man like yourself in his own business, right, who's got money for a tape recorder. So if she's annoyed that you went through clearly with her a lot of her money, I can understand that. Shouldn't have to trust you. I get $373, Bird. I get half of $1089.
Right, which is $544.65 was what I came up with.
$544. Go ahead.
65.
Less
And then
ones?
I took away $175, and I came up with $369.65.
Oh, that's right. $369. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
For the sake of my child, I'm always polite to her. My child is number one priority. I will not be nasty in front of her, in front of my child to her. And it was ordered in the court, in the divorce decree, that we aren't nasty to each other in front of the child.
হ্যালো গাইস, হোয়াটস আপ? কি অবস্থা তোমাদের? কেমন আছো তোমরা?
ভাই আছেন, ইউএসএ আসেন।
আর আমারও আপনি দেখবেন
অবশ্যই।
তাছাড়া কিলার ভাই গিয়েছি কে যদি তুমি যদি কাকু না মারে পাচ্ছ তোমার খাতিয়ে বাটাম দে বেরে মতো
হ্যাঁ ভাই আমি হ্যাক্কা।
তারা 2 মিনিট আমি আসছি বড় ভাই টিম কোডে তুমি যাও
400 দে দেওয়া যাবে ভাই 600 দে দিছে
বুঝিছ না জিনিসপাতি ভালো করে দেখা লাগবি না মিয়া
আরে
কেনকা
হাই
আচ্ছা ঠিক হাই
সমস্যা নেই, একজনকে নামিয়ে দিয়েছি, এখন আমাদের আর কোনো টেনশন নেই।
ए गाइडन ना रे भाई लूट
हम दोनों को लोगे क्या
ये लुंगी पोरी से ना
हाँ लूगा
অনেকদিন পিছিয়ে চলেছি গো অনেকদিন পিছিয়ে চলেছি
আমিও
সেন্সিটিভিটি কম বেশি মনে হচ্ছে
কিন্তু নিও না ভাইয়া
আরে ফ্রি রিভাইভ নিয়ে ঘুরে বেড়ান গাড়ি নিয়ে
উনি মারা যাবে আজকে যদি ফিরে আপনি
টোকেন ও খায় না গাড়ি কুমা হুড়মুড় কেটে বেড়ায় রিভাইভ নেবে লে ঘরের ভিতর বসে থাকে
না না ঘরের ভিতর না ওই যে গাড়ি নিয়ে ওই জুনের ভিতর যান মরলে মনে করেন আমরা রিভাইভ দেব আপনাকে বুঝছেন ওই জুনের ভিতর চলে যান ভাই নাইলে মাইনাস খাবো এখনো কিন্তু
ডাইরেক্ট জোনে
মাইনাস খালে কিছু হবে না লে একবারে
জুনের ভিতর যান একটা টিকিট আছে একটাই যথেষ্ট
কার সাথে
কিলার ব্যাগ কামড়ে গেছে আমি সফল
কিলার ভাই কাজটা ভালো করো নাই
কি করলো
ভাই আমার কাপড় আমার ভাই তুমি
किलर
কি
भाई
করো
क्या
না
क्या कर रहे हैं किलर भाई
এই মিডকিট করে এখন
ভাই তুমি আমার
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ আমি তোমার তারপরে কি
ভাই আমার সম্পদ নেই
কিলার ব্যাগ খুব মেরে দিয়ে গেছেন তুমি এটা সংবাদ পাঠালাম তো কি না চলে কি
শ্যাম তুমি বলো তো আমি বুঝি না ওর কথা
তোমাদেরকে আমি একটা ওয়েবসাইটে পরিচিত
ওই গানটাকে এখন বাচ্চা না বুঝতে না কে জানে
চলো কথা না বাড়িয়ে শুরু করাচ্ছে সর্বপ্রথম
সেখানে গানটা বেচলেই পাওয়া যায়
দেখবে ডিসি
बोला तो डेवलपरটা কি পেনে
খেলা দারুণ হচ্ছে
কিলার ভাই তোমার প্রোফাইল পিকটা কিছুদিন আগে কইছি চেঞ্জ করতে তুমি
ও
করো না
হ্যাঁ তোমার প্রোফাইল পিক ভাই চেঞ্জ করে নিব আর চেঞ্জ করে নিব ভাই
এখন নামে মরো সবাই
ভাই দেখতে কষ্ট লাগে মনে হইতেছে তুমি আমার
আরে ভাই আর
জায়গায়
চেঞ্জ করে নিব ভাই হইছে ভাই আর চেঞ্জ করে নিব
ধন্যবাদ ভাই
স্নাইপার পেলে কিন্তু আমাকে দিয়েন বুঝছেন স্নাইপার পাইলে
শুধু ওকে আসতে দাও
এডব্লিউএম P90
ওকে এনিমি আমরা এখনো দেখা পাইনি
আমার এখানে এনিমি দুই তিনটা এনিমি আমার সামনে এ জোন পুশার আছিল ভাই এখানে জোন পুশার আছিল আরে কত লোক
তাই নাকি লোকেশন দাও আমরাও যাচ্ছি
মোড়ালে মুখে না পালে বের করে দিও
বাইরে ভাই
ও ভাই মুই নাই
এটা বুঝি না আমার খেয়াল জানে গুলি শুধু ঠ্যাঙ্গের মধ্যে লাগে ঠ্যাঙ্গের গেলে ঠ্যাং এই বডির মধ্যে লাগলে
কেউ নেই বলে
ভাই আপনি দেখছেন ভাই এখন মোরসন খেলা দেখ
सर खेला
कुछ कुछ होता है